what time it is. It's the Shabbat. Get ready, get ready, get ready. It's the Shabbat. It's Shabbat. It's a delight to Yahuah. It's the Shabbat. You know what time it is. It's the Shabbat.
Yahuah, want to say Shabbat Shalom once again, family, and want to welcome all of you back. You know what I should have done? I didn't do. What I should have done, I did not do. I've got to set this up for my wife to see. So bear with me just for a moment. And we're going right into our getting into our study here today. Bear with me just for a second. Okay, yes. So during the break, well, it is my hope once again. Want to welcome everyone back. During the break, I had playing. I had the documentary "White It Out" playing. Now, I must say that even though I put that documentary on, not everything presented in the documentary and the way it's presented, I agree with from a scriptural perspective. Nonetheless, it presents. I value more so the portions of those documentary that tell the story of our people, and that's why I put them on. But there are quite a few things that needs to be corrected there. But again, my purpose here is not to even try to get into all that of correcting anything there. But I just want to make that statement. So because I put them on, don't mean that I'm in agreement with everything that's presented. When it comes to the name of Yahuah and even using the names of idols to speak in reference to Yahuah, the scriptures is clear as far as things like that goes, and there are other things. And so I just want to make that clear. And I'm sorry, I don't want it to be confusing. I know we have people, we have family, we have mashpaka who are awakening, and there's much out there to confuse our people. And I put that on, if you have any questions, if you are such a person and you see something that you might have heard me speak about in the past, and here it is, I have a video on, it seemed to be contradictory to what I've stated. If you have any questions, by all means, please, let me know, and I'll be willing to respond for the sake of clarity, okay? Well, once again, I want to welcome you all back, family, and we're going to get ready now to jump into our study for today. Halal Yahuah. We're in the book of Shamuel. First Shamuel chapter 4, or First Samuel chapter 4. I just want to make sure that, give me just a second, I'll just check to see, make sure that everybody can hear me and can see. All right. Okay. Oh, there's a question on the board. Okay. To the key, to the family. Let me see. Women because they were spirit. Okay, got you. Okay, I just saw the question. Yes. All right. So, you know, Shadi, now I wanna also clarify something when it comes to angels and translation uses the term angel or the word angel, but there are no angels in scripture. So angels comes from Greek mythology. However, Yahuwah does have messengers or servants, right? So the word that the Christians translated as angel is actually the word malak, which is messenger or servant. And you do have spiritual beings, servants of Yahuwah. What in the book of Hanuk or Enoch, they're called watchers, right? They're the servants of Yahuwah operating in the heavens and even in the earth. And so you have those messengers, not angels, but messengers. And then also you have you also have uh, messengers. When the scripture speaks of messengers, sometimes it's just regular humans like you and I, messengers, regular humans. And then also we learn from the book of Hanuk, and we even hear from Shahul's writings that the spiritual messengers, servants of Yahuwah in the heavens, that they have the ability to take on human likeness, right? We see that in the book of Hanuk, and we hear Shahul talk about entertaining messengers unawares. We see that that's a possibility. So when it comes to the messengers of Yahuwah lying with mankind, it would have to be, yes, like prophets in the flesh. It would have to be that those messengers had taken on another form in order to lay with women. So when we see that, but in their spiritual form as spiritual beings, they certainly would not be able to do so. To have really that a physical to have physical relation in that sense. All right. So now, was there another question? Um, okay. All right. Okay. So let's we're going now to the book of okay, what are watchmen or okay. Is that in as it relates to the video, Aki, or from the perspective of Yahuwah setting up watchmen on the wall, as it says in the scriptures? Watchmen are the prophets of Yahuwah, from the perspective of the scriptures. Those that Yahuwah raised up to cry out and to warn the people. So I'm just looking at YouTube here. Excuse me. Now you have the ability to sit quietly and listen. Okay. Um, so yeah. So watchmen that Yahuwah referred to, those are men that Yahuwah raised up to proclaim, to remind the people of His word, or to call His people to obedience or to repentance. And to warn them of impending danger. Those are the watchmen. Yeah, they're guardians of Yahuwah's word, guardians of His people. Yes. So, and the way they guard is by crying out. Reminding the people of the word of Yahuwah, the expectation of Yahuwah, the Torah of Yahuwah, the commands, the instructions of Yahuwah. Oh, okay. Yes, 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 yes. All right. So, Now, praise Father, Aki, indeed. Praise Yahuah. So we're going to first Shamuel. That's what they call Samuel, chapter 4. His name is Shamu'al. Shamu'al. Okay. Shamu Shamu'al. Shamu'al. All right. Now, in verse 1. Thus the word of Shamu'al was to all Yashar'Al. And Yashar'Al went out to battle against the. Now, you see the word Philistines? Uh, Philistines, again, this is the. Let me see if I can make up a terminology for it. This is the Yidization. This is the Yidization of our language, right? So anytime you see ites, teens, and so on, that's the Yidization of our language. I just made that one up. The Yidization of our language. So Philistines, the word Philistine, the proper transliteration, because it's a proper name of a people and a place. Okay, so how are people named? How are people named according to the scriptures? We have to cover some basic foundational facts here, right? I just want to lay out a couple of things real quick as the awakening continue, because our people really need to get this to understand it. Our people out there who, because I remember I've had a couple situations talking to individuals, about who they are. And I've had people looking like myself and looking like some of the family here who say, when I tell them, you're not African American, you're not this or you're not that, they tell me, I was born down south. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm an African American, and they get highly indignant about that, right? But how are people named according to the scriptures? How are people known? You see, well, people, we know a few things about people based on the way Yahuah set it up. Just by looking at their name, the name of people, you know what language they speak, and you know what region they're from or what land they possess. We find that in the table of nations in Bereshit, Genesis chapter 10. Okay? As a matter of fact, let's jump over there just real quickly. We'll look at that very quickly. Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 10. Okay? So, why is it that our language is known as Abari? Because we are the descendants of Abar, right? We are the descendants of Abar. And the only reason why the name of the land is not named after our language is because of a few things that took place. You see. And that is, number one, oh yes, our language came from Abar. That is our natural genealogical, or natural genealogical line. So that's our language, Abar. But with Yashar'Al, things are a little bit different from the other nations. We're quite a peculiar people when you think about it, because the other nations, their language speaks of their tells of their genealogy and their land. In the case of Yashar'Al, it's a little different. Our language tells of our genealogy, okay, the language we speak, which is Abari, but from which comes Abraham, but our land was given through another person, still of the lineage of Abar, but the land was not named after Abar because the land was not given to Abar. It was given to Yashar'Al or Yahuah. Yahuah, whose name was changed to Yashar'Al. So that's why our language and our land don't bear the same name, right? Our language and our inheritance don't bear the same name. But in every other case, the language and the inheritance bear the same name. What I mean is, the same is true today with many countries. England, English, right? France, French. Japan, Japanese. You can go down the list, okay? But so normally though, lands are named by the people who will dwell in them, and and the language comes from the people, is based on the people who dwell there, right? Okay, so let's look at real quickly. It says these were the sons of Ham according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, in their nations. This is Bereshit chapter 10 and verse 20. Okay, so this is how people are known or named in the scriptures. So when somebody tell you that they're African American, when our people say that they're African American, it means that they do not know who they are. They don't know their identity, because they're saying, what you have this one person saying that I'm the possessor, my home is 2 continents. Well, continents are broken up into countries, right? And so where in America are you from, really? Where, and how can you really say that you belong to 2 continents, that you somehow you are forget the word, you're original to 2 continents, you know? How can one person declare their origin to be of 2 continents? You see, it doesn't tell us anything about ourselves. These were the sons of Ham, according to their clans, according to their languages, in their lands, in their nations. That one verse tells us a whole lot about the way things are supposed to be. Okay? These are the sons of Ham, according to their clans, according to their languages. Your language is tied to your land is tied to your nation. Okay? In their lands, in their nation. Okay? All right. Now, if we continue to read through this, we learn about Abar. As a matter of fact, Abar came up here. Now, Abar, you won't find Abar if you search through the Bible. If you're doing a Bible search, you'd have to, they call him Eber. Okay? But his name is Abar. All right? His name is Abar. Now, there's a reason why I'm pointing all this out. Let's get back to 1 Samuel chapter 4. So, thus the word of Samuel was to all Yashar'Al. And Yashar'Al went out to battle against the Philistines, which isn't really Philistines, but Philistines come from, the word properly transliterated should be Falashat. Okay? Falashat. And plural, it is Falashatim. Okay? Falashatim. So, thus the word of Samuel was to all Yashar'Al, and Yashar'Al went out to battle against Falashat, or the Falashatim, and then camped beside Aban Ahatzar, while Falashat encamped in Afaksad, in Afak. Okay? Now, the reason why they changed these words and names is again to hide the source or to hide the history of the people, of the true people. That's why they had to smooth them off. Okay? And the Falashat team or Falashat put themselves in battle array against Yashar'Al. And when the battle spread, Yashar'Al was smitten by Falashat, who killed about 4,000 men of the army in the field. Okay, now, let's keep this in perspective. Remember, we're continuing from where we left off last week. Yes, indeed, that's how it would be spelled, Aki Harrison, Abarham, right. Mm-hmm. Yes, and they did, yes. Now, you know what's interesting, though? What should be noted is that Abraham does have other seed that's not Yashar'Al, you see. So other people can claim to be of the seed of Abraham, but only Yashar'Al can claim Yahuah, you see, can claim Yashar'Al. So for you to be Yashar'Al, just simply claiming to be the seed of Abraham is not enough. You got to be able to link yourself to all three patriarchs. Okay? You've got to be able to link yourself to all three patriarchs, which is Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Okay? All right. So now, they went out, and I don't want to confuse anybody. The Philistines, Falashat or Falashatim, that's their proper name. But I'm going to use the Philistines just as not to confuse, so I don't lose anybody. But keep in mind now the context of what's happening here. So what's happening here is that Yashar'Al went out to battle against Falashat, aka the Philistines. And as they battled against the Philistines, it says that 4,000 of them, 4,000 men of the army were slain. Okay? Yashar'Al went out to battle and 4,000 was slain. Now, that's a big clue that something's wrong. That is a big clue that something is wrong. Whenever Yashar'Al went out to battle and you have people dying, it has to be that something is wrong. Because when Yashar'Al is in right standing with Yahuah, when Yashar'Al is Qadash, then Yashar'Al is kept safe. Because Yahuah guards over them and Yahuah fights for them. You see. Yes, they're in battle, but Yahuah is at the forefront of their battle. And they always come out victorious. But here it is, they go into battle, and 4,000 men died in this battle. That means something is wrong, you see. But what is wrong? Now remember, we're continuing from chapter 2 of Shamuel now. Chapter 1, 2, and 3 of Shamuel. And so chapter 4 is simply a continuation, right? Verse 3, and when the people came into the camp, the elders of Yashar'Al said, why has Yahuah smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the contract of Yahuah from Shalah to us, so that he comes into our midst and save us from the hand of our enemies. Okay. Just check your mic from there, family. Somebody's mic is open and it's creating a pretty bad feedback. Somebody's mic is creating okay, let's see. Check. Okay. Let's see. Okay. All right, so here we go. Okay, and when the people came into the camp, the elders of Yashar'Al said, this is verse 3 of 1 Samuel chapter 4. And when the people came into the camp, the elders of Yashar'Al said, why has Yahuah smitten us today before Phalashat? Let us bring the ark of contract of Yahuah from Shalah, which is what they call Shiloh. By the way, family, for those studying the language, I just want to show you something. I just want to show you something. And what I just read is verse 3, right? We talked a little bit about the language earlier. And when you look up, if you go to the lexicon, or if you go to a any text with the Abari text in it, what you want to do is you don't want to pay attention to what they tell you. You don't want to pay attention to what they tell you, to their pronunciation, their so-called transliteration, which is really no transliteration but corruption. You don't want to pay attention to that. What you want to pay attention to is the actual spelling. Okay, the actual spelling. And of course, again, these points and stuff that you see, those are what vowel points. Those are things that they invented and that they made rules up for you to follow. Okay. What we have here is Mam, Shan, Lamad, Hey. And that is Mashallah. Okay, which is saying to bring to ourselves from Shiloh, right? From Shalah, not Shiloh, Shalah. How it became Shiloh is because of vowel points. Mashallah or Shalah. If you take the ma off and you have just the name of the place left, is Shalah. Amazingly, from time to time, they show you what it's supposed to really be. Okay, so over here, you're seeing what it's supposed to be. Shalah, not Shiloh. Literally, they tell you it's from Shalah. Yeah, that is literally what it is, Shalah, not Shiloh. Okay, so when we study the language, we got to learn to do away with vowel points because they're not a part of our language. They're a fraud. That's what they use to Europeanize the language. Okay, just like we talk about the Philistines, Phalashat. Now they put Peleshat, Peleshet. This is Yiddish. That's not right. There are no E's in the language. Okay, so it should be Palashat. Palashat. Okay, Palashat. That's what it should be. All right, so as we study the language, these are some of the things that we got to look out for. If we look at what they tell us that it should be, that's where we get into trouble. Okay, so we can't look at what they tell us it should be. We got to look at the actual rendition, the actual writing of it. Okay, and then break it down from there. Just want to highlight that. In case somebody's watching and saying, well, why aren't you saying Philistines and why are you saying Palashat instead and whatever else? Just want you to see that. Okay, that's where that comes from. We're stripping away the lies and the contradictions and the forgery that have been formed. Okay. And when the people came into the camp, the elders of Yashar'Al, back to verse 3, the elders of Yashar'Al said, why has Yahuah smitten us today before Palashat or the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of contract of Yahuah from Shalah to us, so that he comes into our midst and save us from the hand of our enemies. Okay, so here it is. As it turned out, the people, now, they went out to battle. The men of Yashar'Al went out to battle. And in the battle, they lost 4,000 men. And they say something is wrong, you see. So what we need to do is we need to go get the ark of contract And we need to bring it from Shalah into our midst. That way we know that Yahuah is with us when we go out to fight. But you're going to see what happens afterwards. Even after they went and brought the Ark of Contract in their midst. You see, family, what we have to understand is that even though Yahuah might be in our midst, it's not a guarantee for victory when we are not lining up, you see. Because, and let me explain exactly what I'm pointing to. There are people out there today, earlier we talked about the feast and the appointed times of Yahuah. And there are people out there today who make the argument that, Yahuah is with us wherever we go. And so for that reason, because Yahuah is with us, he lives in us. And because he lives in us, that means wherever we want to keep the feast, we can keep it. Right? But here's the caution. Simply because Yahuah is in your midst, it does not mean that you can do whatever you want to do, when you want to do it, and where you want to do it. Okay? That's the lesson here. Look at this now. So they lost this battle. They lost 4,000 men in this one battle. They regrouped. They came home and they said, something's wrong. Oh, we know what it is. Yahuah is not in our midst. Let's go get the ark of his presence. Let's go get the ark of contract. Let's go get the dwelling place of his presence among us, and let us put it in our midst. And now that we know that he is in our midst, certainly when we go back out to fight, we are going to have victory. That's what they figured. Okay? But here's the caution. Simply because Yahuah may be in our midst does not guarantee us victory, or simply because Yahuah is in our midst does not mean that we have the right to do whatever we want to do when we want to do it in the name of Yahuah, because that is not always true. It's not always the case. Okay? So that's the mistake they made here now. All right? They failed to recognize what the real problem is. So the people sent to Shalah, and they brought from there the ark of the contract of Yahuah of hosts, dwelling between the cherubim. And the two sons of Ali, of Nai and Panaas, were there with the ark of the contract of Elohim. And when the ark of the contract of Yahuah came into the camp, all Yashar'Al shouted so loudly that the earth shook. Now, I don't believe necessarily that this was literal in the scriptures. That's the thing we got to understand about the scriptures also as we study the scriptures. In the scriptures, there is, it's just the way of our people, the way we correspond, the way we communicate, the way we convey things. We're very vivid in our description. And so it said that the shout was so loud that the earth shook. But basically the point being made here is that the people were excited that the ark was there, and they made a great shout. So great was the shout that their neighbors heard the shout. Okay? Now, so now figure now we have the presence of Yahuah with us. Certainly victory is on our side. But you know what? The problem was not that the presence of Yahuah was not with them. The problem is with Ali and his sons who are actually there with them. But the biggest problem at this point now, even though the sons were very much responsible for what had happened in Yashar'Al, Yahuah held their father accountable still, because he failed to not bring them up, but he didn't hold that against him if he failed in bringing them up. He failed to discipline them, to correct them when they were in error. Instead of putting them out of the work, he kept them in the work, even knowing that they were not doing right. Okay, so now Yahuah is not pleased with Ali. Okay, so now, and when the ark of contract, verse 5 of Yahuah came into the camp, all Yashar'Al shouted, so loudly that the earth shook. And when the Philistim, the Philistines, heard the noise of the shout, they said, what is this noise? What is the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Abarim? It says Hebrews there. And when they knew that the ark of Yahuah had come into the camp, the Philistim, the Philistines, were afraid, for they said, Elohim has come into the camp. And they said, woe to us, for it has never been like this before. They said, we have never had to fight the people when Yahuah was in their midst. Woe to us. When they literally had the presence of Yahuah right there in their midst. We had never had to fight them under such conditions before. And the Philistim were very concerned. So what did they do? They said, woe to us. Who shall deliver us from the hand of... Now watch this now. The Christian Trinitarians said these. It's not these mighty Elohim. It's the mighty Elohim, the great Elohim. Not these. This is because of their Trinitarian doctrine. Okay, so they say these Elohim. It's not these Elohim. Elohim is one. Elohim is Akkad. Okay? So they say, woe to us. Who shall deliver us from the hand of the mighty Elohim? These are the Elohim who, not these, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry about that. That's a pop-up. He is the Elohim who smote Mitzrayim with all the plagues in the wilderness. They're concerned. They have Yahuah in their midst, and he is the same Yahuah that smote Mitzrayim with all the plagues. Okay? So this is what their leader said to them. Prepare for war. Prepare yourself like never before. Be strong and be men. Be strong and be men. You people of Phalashat, you men of Phalashat, that you do not become servants of the Abarim, as they have been to you. Be men and fight. And Phalashat fought. And Yashar'Al was smitten. And every man fled to his tent. Now they have the presence of Yahuah with them. They went back out to battle after losing 4,000 men. But before they went back out to battle, they went and got the Ark of Contract, which was the dwelling place of Yahuah. They went and brought the presence of Yahuah in their midst. Went back out to battle to fight against the Philistim. And again they are beaten. Even with Yahuah in their midst, something is wrong. And the Philistim fought, and Yashar'Al was smitten, and every man fled to his tent, and the slaughter was very great. And there fell of Yashar'Al 30,000 foot soldier. Again, the caution here is for Yashar'Al to be mindful that simply because Yahuah may be in our midst, it's not a guarantee for victory when things aren't the way they're supposed to be. And the ark of Elohim was captured, and the two sons of Ali died, Abnai and Panaas. And the men of Banyaman ran from the battle line the same day, and came to Shalah with his garments torn. This is where Ali is, the Haykal in Shalah. With his garments torn, and dirt on his head. And he came in and saw Ali sitting on a seat by the wayside, watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of Elohim. So Ali's concerned by this point. Ali had now come to the realization of where he sat down. He came to the realization of his failings. And what you're going to see is that what bothered him most was not the fact that his disobedient sons, that the scriptures call sons of Belial, are sons of disobedience. What bothered him most was not the fact that his sons had been slain in battle, but what bothered him most was that the ark of Yahuah the Ark of Contract had been taken away. That's what bothered him most. And you know what? He knew and he realized that as high priest, it was as a result of him not doing what was required of him. And so because he failed to do what he needed to do, because he failed to be set apart, not only did 4,000 men died in one battle, but then they went out to battle again and another great sum died. And now, not just that you now have many people dying because of the failings of one man. Now, the Ark of Contract, the dwelling place of the presence of Yahuah, is now taken away from the nation. And he came in and saw Ali sitting on a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the Ark of Elohim. And the man came into the city and reported it, and all the city cried out. And Ali heard the noise of the outcry and said, "What is the noise of this uproar?" And the man came hastily and informed Ali. Now Ali was 98 years old, and his eyes were so dim that he was unable to see. And the man said to Ali, "I am he who came from the battle, and I fled today from the battle line." And he said, "What was the matter, my son?" And the messenger answered and said, "Yashar'Al has fled before Falashat, or the Falashatim, and there has been a great slaughter among the people. And your two sons have died, Apnai and Phaneas, and the Ark of Elohim has been captured." And it came to be, when he made mention of the Ark of Elohim, not when he made mention of the sons of Ali, but when he made mention of the Ark of Elohim, that Ali fell off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for the man was old and heavy, and he ruled Yashar'Al 40 years. It was not at the report of his sons being killed that he was so broken that he fell off his chair. It was at the report that the dwelling place of the presence of Yahuah had been stripped from the nation. And in that moment, he realized his role in the matter. He realized that as leader of the people and leader of his house, he recognized that he had failed the people because he failed to correct his sons. He failed to take actions when they were acting disobediently and lawlessly, serving in the Haykal and making it a house of whoredom. And so he had come to the point of acknowledging the fact that his sons were wicked. And so at the hearing that they had died, that did not affect him as much as when he heard that the presence of Yahuah had left the nation, and it was because he failed to be as set apart as he should have been. You see. And it came to be when he made mention of the Ark of Elohim, that Ali fell off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for the man was old and heavy, and he ruled Yashar'Al 40 years. And his daughter-in-law, Phaneas's wife, was pregnant, about to bear. And when she heard the news that the Ark of Elohim was captured, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and gave birth. Because her pains came up on her, she began to stress, and it brought about an early delivery. And about the time of her death, the women who stood by her said to her, "Do not fear, for you have borne a son." But she did not answer, nor did she set her heart to it. And she called the child Ichabod, meaning the presence, the esteem of Yahuah has left them. The esteem has departed, saying, the esteem has departed from Yashar'Al, because the Ark of Elohim was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. Okay. And she said, the esteem has departed from Yashar'Al, for the ark of Elohim was taken. So you have one man who refused to do what he was supposed to do, what he was instructed to do. His first failing was with the upbringing of his sons. We saw as we studied that it would appear that it was easier for him to correct a child that was not his own biologically, as in the prophet Shamuel, the young prophet. He did a good job at keeping, at training up Shamuel. But for his sons, when they needed correction most, he remained silent. And it brought evil upon Yashar'Al. So for the failings of one man, the presence of Yahuah left the nation, and it cost the lives of a great deal of people. Now, ultimately, it began with one man failing. It began with the high priest not doing what he is supposed to do. And that then spread throughout the nation. So at the end of the day, it wasn't just his household that was living in disobedience, but the entire nation of Yashar'Al had turned away from Yahuah, you see. But it began with one man. The destruction of Yashar'Al began with one man, as in the same way the restoration of Yashar'Al during the time of the Maccabees began with one man. So what would have averted the situation? What would have avoided the chaos? What would have avoided the presence of Yahuah departing from them? Ali being set apart and requiring and holding his sons accountable to the word of Yahuah. Okay? So for us as men of Yashar'Al, men of Yahuah, our set apartness is essential to our nation. We might look at it and think that, oh, it's not affecting anybody else. What I do don't affect anybody else. It only affects me. But that's not what the scriptures continue to show us time and time again. When one man rebel, when one man go against Yahuah, it affects us as a nation. You see, it affects us as a nation. And so we are all intricately connected. And so we have to be accountable to one another. When in living for Yahuah, we can't just think of ourselves, because it does not only affect ourselves, it affects the entire nation. If one man would stand up and be willing to stand boldly and passionately for Yahuah, it will affect the entire nation in a positive way. But if one man decides to sit and decide to be passive in the face of much wickedness, in the face of much evil, in the face of much disobedience, it will also affect the nation negatively, you see. And so as men, we have a responsibility to hold up a standard of Qadash, a standard of set apartness. But not only do we have the responsibility to hold up a standard of set apartness, we have the responsibility as men of Yashar'Al to be united. You see what was happening here? You had unity. You had unity, but there was no set apartness. You can't have unity and no set apartness. And you can't have set apartness and no unity. You need both of them working hand in hand. Notice now, you had unity, but no set apartness. So when they went out to fight, they were united. They went out and they fought together as a nation. They were united, but there was no set apartness. What you need in order to be victorious, you need unity and you need set apartness. You see, you can't have one without the other. You see, now we're going to look at a text where there was a lack of unity. It was a matter of one man only thinking about himself. And we will see how as a result of him being selfish, how it affected him. Let's go over to the book of Bereshit, or Genesis chapter 38. So, in order for us to stand as a people, lions, men of Yahuah, in order for us to be victorious, in order for us to be who we are to be, who we have been created to be in Yahuah, there must be unity and there must be true set apartness, right? Now we go over to Bereshit, chapter 38. Now, I want to go to a couple again. Let me just go over here and look at a couple of these names. All right. Here we have who they call Hirah, Hirah. But what you see is, and it's not Hi, it's not the Hey. This is the CH, okay? So what his name would have been is Kirah, right? Kirah, Chyrah, Kirah, okay? Kirah is what his name would be. Okay, Kat, Yad, Rosh, Hey. Okay? All right, so we look at that. I just want to point a couple things out here as we go. And it's Adulami, which comes from Adulam. Okay. All right, now let's go down to another one before we start reading. Now, where they say Canaanite, it should be Kahani. Okay. Now here is Shua. That's correct. Shua. Okay. Shua. It's the name Shua. Okay. Now here is deception. Here is deception. I want to show you something. That's where they try to tell you that Shua, that Yeshua and Yahusha is interchangeable. So I just want to point this out to you, that this is deception. Shua does not come from Yasha. That's what they say, but that's not true. Shua does not come from Yasha. It's two different words. Okay? So they say, you see where I'm looking at here, 7770? The name is Shua. They say it comes from Yasha. That's why they tell you that it's okay to say Shua and Yeshua. That's not true. Okay? It's not true. Yasha and Shua is two different roots, two different words. Shua don't come from Yasha. Shua means to cry out, and Shua can mean riches. You see, and Shua can mean destruction, desolation, desolate, abomination. Yasha means salvation, deliverance. You see. So they put this in here, but it's not correct. Look at it. You could just look at it. You can tell, how does Abari work? How does roots work? What they're saying is, to you family, they're saying that the root of Shua is Yasha. But that's not the way roots work. You can't say something is a root of something when it doesn't look like it or doesn't sound like it. The root of something is the root of it. That means you're going to have relationship. You're going to have sounding and spelling looking the same way, sounding the same way. It's got to have a relationship. There is no relationship between these two. You see? So It is deception. I just want to point out a few of these things to you as you study the language and you use these sources. You got to recognize that the liars never stop lying, that they never give up. They listen, they are so sealed in their wickedness that they can't help themselves. Okay? So I just want to make you aware of this. Okay, now let's go on to one more, and then we're going to start reading. Let's go down to verse 3. All right. Now, er, 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 Yeah, this is the other one. We don't have anybody named or Ben Hur or any her like that. His name is not Her. You see? His name is not Her. His name is not neither ER nor UR. You see that again? They say it's from UR. No. What do we have here? We have Ayan Rash. Ayan Rash. Okay. How do they turn an A to an E? They put a bunch of little stupid dots and the thing underneath. And that's supposed to turn an A, Ayan, to an E, something that don't exist in the language. So the name here is R, A-R, R, okay? And again, you look over here, the root, they tell you the root is U-R. There is no U in this name, you see. So I just want to point out these, just a little niblets as we go through, right? Now let's get back to the text. Okay. And at that time, it came to be that Yahudah left his brothers and turned aside to a man of Adullam, whose name was Kirah. Okay? Kirah. And Yahudah saw there a daughter of a certain Kahani, whose name was Shua, not spelled with a W, but spelled S-H-U-A, Shua. And he took her and went into her. So she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name R. And she conceived yet again, and bore a son, and called his name Shalah. And he was at Kasib when she bore him. And Yahudah took a wife for her, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But R, Yahudah's firstborn, was evil in the eyes of Yahuah, and Yahuah took his life. And Yahudah said to Unan, go in to your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. Now, let me clarify something here right now, because some people will take this verse and say that this is the definition of marriage, that by simply having having intimacy with a woman, that is how marriage is defined by scripture. That's not the case. You can't simply go into a woman and she become your wife, as in the case of lay with a woman and that makes her your wife. No, that makes you and her whores. You see, that don't make marriage. There is much more to marriage than just laying with somebody. Now, this is a doctrine out there that people teach, but it's a false doctrine. You know what they are? They're harlots running around committing whoredom. You see, that's not what marriage is according to the scriptures. I'm not going to get deeply into marriage, something that we have covered before, but I'm not going to get into it right now to get sidetracked. Just want you to know that that's not what's being stated here. It wasn't that he was simply to go into her and then she was going to become his Asha. You see, there is more to marriage than that. Okay? Now, so, and Yahudah said to Unan, so the brother, Yahuah killed him because he was wicked. And so his father said to the brother, Unan, go into your, or I think his name might have been Anan. I didn't look up his name. Go into your brother's wife and marry her and raise up an heir to your brother. And Hanan knew that the offspring would not be his. And it came to be when he went into his brother's wife that he spilt on the ground, lest he should give an offspring to his brother. Now we're talking about unity. Set apartness, we talk about set apartness. Now we're talking about unity. Okay? Now this text is also used, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to you, Yahuah Reign. This text is also used by Christians and others to say that this is talking about something else. But that's not the case here. This isn't talking about, I'm not going to get into it, but it's not, Christians have made a doctrine out of this that has nothing to do with what actually happened. We're going to talk about what actually happened, okay? So what Anan did now, Anan went in to his brother's wife. Why did Yahudah tell him to do that? Let's see. This is a little trivia. This is a little bit of quiz here, family. Let's keep it alive. I don't want to be the only one talking. So why did Yahudah tell Anan, his younger son, to go and take his brother's wife and to marry her and raise up seed? Is that something that Yahudah came up with, or is that the command of Yahuah? Did Yahudah make that one up because he wanted a grandchild from the son, his firstborn that died? Or is this a command? Throwing a little quiz out there, a little trivia. Yes, indeed, Aki. Yes, some made the doctrine out of it about masturbation. That's not what it is about. It's a command. It's a command. It's a command of Yahuah. It's a command of Yahuah. Yahuah command that if one of the sons of Yashar'Al take a woman to wife and dies without giving her seed, then his other sibling, other brother, was to take her to wife. If it was to take her to wife and to raise up seed onto the brother that is deceased. Okay? Now, this brother was selfish. A lot like a lot of our people in Yashar'Al. A lot of selfishness. We see it around us today. Too much selfishness. Too much self-centeredness. This brother was selfish and self-centered. You see. Yes, to keep the lineage going, to keep the nation going, ultimately is the bottom line. You see? It's about preservation of a nation. You see? So, a lot of people today, just as it was then, people of Yashar'Al, self-centered and selfish. This brother decided, you know what? I don't have a problem going into her. I don't have a problem laying with her. You know? But I'm not gonna bring forth no seed because it's not gonna be considered mine. It's gonna be considered my brother's. Well, if you have that much of an issue with it, you should not have taken her to be your wife to begin with. You see, it's not just that. Listen, we got to unpack this. It's not just that this was something that came about overnight. It wasn't that his brother died and the next night his daddy said, "Hey, Anan, I want you to go in there now, and I want you to go bring me out. I want you to bring me a grandson in the name of your brother." No, that's not how it went down. This was not over. It wasn't an overnight thing. Marriage is not an overnight situation in Yashar'Al. They had to go through the standard order. It was not an overnight situation. So it wasn't like, oh, well, it was just one night, and he went in and decided to spill his seed. Yes, because he was to take his brother's wife to be his wife. It wasn't that he was going to get her impregnated and then she on her own with the baby. No, this was now going to be his wife. But the first child that comes from the marriage was to be named in honor and to be seen as the son of the brother that died. So this wasn't just a hurry come up kind of thing, as they'd say in Jamaica. It wasn't a hurry come up kind of situation. This was marriage, and marriage as order. You see, so they would plan the marriage. There would be a ceremony. There would be a ketubah. You see, it wasn't something that just happened overnight. So it reveals to us the heart of this man. So he want to have the cookie, but he don't want to pay for the milk. So he decides, well, she is fine. I can live with that. Hmm? No, babe. No. He was very aware of what he was getting into. Oh, nah, I think the only thing hard about it for him was the fact that the first seed wasn't going to be named after him. Everything else was easy. You see? That was the only issue he had. Didn't say he didn't like the way she looked. He just had issues with the first seed being named after his brother and not him. You see? Because he was not united with the cause of the nation. That's why Yahuah gave that instruction. It was an instruction for the benefit and the longevity of the nation. That's what that instruction was given for the preservation of a nation. But he was selfish and he was self-centered. He was not thinking about it from the perspective of a nation. He was only thinking about it from his selfish perspective. And so from his selfish perspective, he had no trouble going through all of the planning and all of the ceremony and everything. He had no trouble going through all that. After all of the trouble this might cause me, I'll get it back in my enjoyment. He had no trouble going through all that. It's just that when it came time for him to live up to what the instruction is really about, is disunity, is self-centeredness, and his lack of love for his brother. Because that says all of that. His lack of love for his brother, his lack of love for his people, his lack of love for his nation, his lack of respect and honor for his father, his lack of love and fear for Yahuah. because of his self-centeredness, drove him to disobedience. There was no unity. So in the case of Ali and the men of Yashar'Al at that time, they had unity, but they had no set apartness, and they failed. In the case of this young man, he had no unity. Certainly he had no set apartness either, but he had no unity. And as a result, what happened? He's going to fail. You know, today, well, the laws of the land that we live in says it would be, yes, and as a matter of fact, the truth of the matter is, there came a point where the law was changed in Torah, where it was no longer necessary, became no longer necessary. So in the beginning, at the beginning of the nation, Yahuah said it was okay, but as the nation grew and was numbered in the millions, it was no longer necessary. And so Yahuah changed the law. You see. Now, but there is a difference. There is a difference. I must point out there is a difference. Because in the case of death, I believe in the case of death that it is a, how should you put it? What's the term I should use here? There was, yes, it was nullified. In the case of death, where somebody becomes a widow, it was a different situation. Okay, so if the brother dies, in the case if the brother died not giving birth, not having seed, it was still okay. Remember with Yahusha, when they came to Yahusha with that question, the scribes, the Sadducees who did not believe in the resurrection, they came to Yahusha to entrap him, and that was the question that they used. They said, a certain man had two sons, right? One died and not giving birth, and the other son took his wife, took her to wife. He died, and 3 sons or whatever it was, and so on. In the resurrection, whose wife of they will she be? So we see that even after the change, forget the word that I'm looking for here, but Yahuah made room in the case of widowhood without seed, right? It was still, Yashar'Al was still permitted. The brother was still permitted to take that woman to wife if she had borne no seed to his brother. Okay, if she had borne seed, then she was off limits. But if she had borne no seed and she was a widow, then the brother could take her to wife. Why is that? For her protection, for her preservation, and for the preservation of the nation. Right? Now, yes, and for inheritance, absolutely. Okay, so this guy was self-centered. You see, he was totally self-centered and all into being gratified. You see, but he did not want any responsibility and did not care about anybody else. He lacked unity. As a people, as men of Yashar'Al, we can't be self-centered and we cannot be disunited. We've got to stand for the cause of Yahuah, stand for the cause of our people, stand for the cause of our nation. We've got to be selfless. So verse 8, and Yahudah said to Anan, go into your brother's wife and marry her, and raise up an heir to your brother. And Anan knew, raise up an heir to your brother. And Anan knew that the offspring would not be his. And it came to be when he went into his brother's wife that he spilled. So he married her, then he went into her, because him going in only comes after the marriage. This is where now he's going to go consummate the marriage. You see, my wife read something today which is very true. Somebody wrote something about marriage. And what the person pointed out, which is absolutely true, is that marriage in Yashar'Al is not about an individual or about two individuals. Marriage is about family and ultimately about a nation. When it comes to marriage in Yashar'Al, families were involved. You see, it wasn't about two people just hooking up, seeing each other, liking each other. Oh, let's do this. Forget what mom and dad thinks. Forget what the rest of the family think. No, marriage was a family situation. Ultimately, a national situation. It was about the nation ultimately, but a nation begins with the family. Yes, families being joined together. It's about families being joined together. It's about unity in the nation. And Anan knew that the offspring would not be his. And it came to be, you see, it was selfish. He was all about himself. And it came to be when he went into his brother's wife that he spilled on the ground, lest he should give an offspring to his brother. But what he did displeased Yahuah. Now, again, the Christian teacher, I heard Christians teaching this, say this scripture is talking about masturbation. Yeah, that's not what it's talking about at all. It's talking about what this man did in disobeying Yahuah and having no commitment to his people, to his brother, to his father, to his nation, to the families. And I knew the offspring would not be his, and it came to be when he went into his brother's wife that he spilled on the ground, lest he should give an offspring to his brother. But what he did displeased Yahuah, so he took his life. So he took his life too. Yahuah took his life also, because it displeased Yahuah what he did. Then Yahudah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah is grown. For he said, lest he also die as his brothers did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And after a long time, the daughter of Shua, Yahudah's wife, died. And Yahudah was comforted and went up to his sheep shearers at Timnah, he and his friend Hirah of Adullam, Al-Huyah. So, excuse me, I went to this text. We talk about the importance of set apartness as men of Yashar'Al, how important it is for us to be set apart so that the nation do not suffer, so that our family do not suffer. And why the reason why we came here now is to look at the importance of unity. So in the book of Shamuel, we saw that Yashar'Al was united, but they were united without set apartness, and they failed. Here we saw that this brother, Anan, that he was neither united nor was he set apart. Because how can you be set apart and disobedient at the same time? Set apartness is marked by obedience and by your willingness to obey. This brother was neither united nor was he set apart. And ultimately, he paid with his life, you see. And so as men of Yashar'Al, we have a responsibility to be set apart, to be Qadash, and to be united. And in so doing, we will be a strong nation. We will be the lions that Yahuah has called us to be, expect us to be. We will be a nation of great leaders, great warriors, great defenders of our family and of our people. We'll be certainly great in Yahuah. I'm going to stop here for today, family. It's my hope that our study today has been a barakah to you an encouragement for us to look into ourselves and see how we can, as men, can become better, and as women, become better in the kingdom of Yahuah, and for the benefit of our nation. I'm going to stop here for today, and I'm going to open up the microphone to any comments or any questions that there might be. All right, let me just all right, I see Aki Wendiahu's flag. Please go ahead, Aki. Praise
Barak
Father
be
Aki.
Yahuah, Barak
Hallelujah.
be all Yakis, and all Yashar'Al.
Praise Yahuah.
Yeah, you listening?
Yes, we hear you loud and clear, Aki. Great to hear
Shabbat
you.
shalom to all. Aki, sorry that I came in that so late, and I don't have a comment on what you were reading just now, but I had a question from earlier, and I don't know if you did answer it. I don't know if it's possible.
Yes, certainly, Aki. Whatever the question is, feel free to go ahead.
Yes, thank you. My question is, do we need to keep immersing in the name of Yahuwah, or I mean, in the name of Yahusha, time to time, like twice a year, 3 times a year, or something like what Shaul were doing in the past?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that question, and because it reminded me that I never responded to that question from Aki. It's Aki's name, I forget, but my Aki from I believe South Carolina or North Carolina. So I'm glad you bring up the question again, Aki Wendiahu, concerning immersion. So immersion, immersion is important. We're commanded. It's a part. Immersion have always been a part of the set apart ways of Yahuwah. While the Haykal was standing, immersion. So immersion have always been a part of our practice. It's symbolic of the cleansing that Yahuwah does in us, and it's a symbol that is expected to continue. And so immersion is important. Immersion is to be done in the name of Yahuwah Hamashiach, which is Yahusha, in the name of Yahusha. Now, immersion also, it's not necessarily say that you have to do it 3 times a year or whatever. So let me answer the question. Let me answer the question in a way that make it clear for everybody. So the point is that you only need to be immersed once. But as far as how often immersions take place, depends on when people, where people are available and want to be immersed. So we see in the book of Acts, for example, when they would do immersions, it would be much like today because of the scattering of the people. They made it a thing of how should I put it, opportune times. So it gave everybody an opportunity. They kind of planned it around availability when people can come together, just like we would today. So but it's not, they don't have to be limited to a set time, but whenever people are available, and if there is water, they ask the question, for example, in the book of Acts, what hinder me from being immersed? You say, hey, there's water, let's go. So as long as there's water and some willing people, then we're ready. So in our case, though, it's about availability. It's about being able to come together where we can do it. Okay, so what if you fell away and returned back? Do you have to get re-immersed? No, if you're in Yahuah, if you were in Yahuah and you, in this truth, awakening to the truth, right? And you fell. I mean, I don't believe there's a stipulation. I see nothing in the scriptures, but it might not be a bad idea anyway, you see. But I can't say from the perspective of scripture that yeah you must or no you shouldn't, but I don't think it's if you've fallen away and Yahuwah show favor and bring you back, then it might be a wonderful thing to do so. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Aki. I hear you.
Yes. Yes. If I'm not mistaken, Shaul, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not wrong,
Mm-hmm.
he when he comes from returns from doing like teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that there was this one time that they asked him to like shave and to prove, if I'm not mistaken, to the rest of the Abaris that he them it needs to, it needed to be clean, something like that, if I'm not wrong. And they asked him to like clean himself again, and immerse himself again. He had to shave off his hair, his eyelash, his eyebrows, and something like that. So
Oh,
like he needed to be clean again because he was around all this let's say pagan
yeah,
people.
yeah, yeah.
Just correct me if I'm wrong. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I know what you're talking. I know what you're referring to. So what it was this is Yahuda at war against Ephraim. Okay, so they were criticizing Shaul because Shaul had gone to the Gentiles, which are the scattered people of Yashar'Al, which is the other house of Yashar'Al, the 10 tribes of Yashar'Al. So there was this big uproar because Shaul was reaching out to the Gentiles, the house of Ephraim or the house of Yaakov or the house of Yashar'Al. And because he was around these people who the house of Yahuda saw as being unclean, as being no good, as being worthless, as being unbelievers, as not belonging to Yahuwah anymore, and as being no longer their brother, then they felt like they shouldn't. Shaul, who was of the house of Yahuda, more specifically the tribe of Banyaman, that he should not have anything to do with them. And so even with Kapha, with Peter, Kapha, when he was around Shaul, he was all right. He felt like, the Gentiles, the scattered people of Yashar'Al, the 10 tribes, that, we should reach out to them and we should sit down and eat with them and we should reason with them and we should let them know who they are and we should share the word of Yahuwah with them. But then when Kapha got around other people of the house of Yahuda, those with their nose in the hair and in the air and feeling like there's something that they're not, then he would backpedal and he would act like, me, I don't eat with those people, they're no good, they're filthy, they're swines, I have nothing to do with them. And so Shaul rebuked him about that, about his hypocrisy. And so but that is not to say that that's what was to be done. These were just some ICD hypocritical, self-righteous people trying to put some laws in place, trying to make their own laws as they're known to doing. So it's not that that's necessary. It's just some self-righteous folks making up laws as self-righteous people do. All right. I think there was another flag that was up. You're welcome, Daki. I think there was another flag. Was there another flag up, family? I think there might have been another flag. Let me see. Um, I'm searching the board for questions. Okay, to the Akut, let me try to find it. So today, if a man marries, no, we answered that one already. Ah, question on YouTube. Okay, was baptized in the Christian church. Should I be baptized again in the name of Yahuwah? Yes, yes. Because if you're baptized into Christianity, you're baptized into a pagan, into the name of a pagan deity, and into a pagan religion. And so, yes, you should be immersed again in the name of Yahusha, Yahuah our salvation, Yahuah our deliverer. Yes, indeed. All right. Is it okay for a man to keep his head shaved? No, no, not according to the scriptures. Now there are times when the men of Yashar'Al would shave their heads. It's a sign of cleansing. Okay, it's a sign of cleansing that they would shave their heads and shave their beards. It's a sign of cleansing, but it was not the custom of the men of Yashar'Al, people of Yashar'Al, to keep their heads shaved. Now if you're naturally bald, then so be it, but it's not the custom of Yashar'Al to keep your head shaved. Yes. Uyakara 21:5, they do not make any bald place on their heads, and they do not shave the corner of their beard, and they do not make a cutting in their flesh. Yeah, it seemed to be, uh, I don't know if now it's become natural for him or he always shave it. I don't know. Okay, in Dabarim chapter 14, verse 1, you are the children of Yahuah your Elohim. Do not cut yourselves nor shave the front of your head for the dead. So you see the marring that Yahuah talk about, it was an actual practice that the heathen, that the pagan would do. It's a custom where they would mark themselves for the dead, and that's what Yahuah was making reference to when he told Yashar'Al, cautioned Yashar'Al about marring their heads and the corners of their beards and stuff. It was a pagan custom that they would do for the dead. I don't think. Now listen carefully. I don't think there's anything wrong with grooming your hair and your beard. I don't think there's anything wrong with grooming. Getting carried away with it, where you're outlining and marking stuff up, that's where the problem comes in. You see, um, and in this, yes, get a taper. And in this, again, motive, what Yahuah cautioned them about, the motive he cautioned them about was doing it for the reasons the pagans were doing it in honor of the dead. That he was specifically speaking to them about that. But also, people today do that stuff not for the dead, but for self esteem. They're too much into themselves. So the motive plays an important role. You know. So if the top of your head is completely bald, is it wrong to shave the rest off? Um, good question. I'm on my way there. The middle of my head now is getting bald, but I still don't feel the need to cut all of it off. But um, I, uh, I, I don't know. I don't know. But again, too, if we put the text in context, we got to put it in context. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, I'm getting there. Men and women. I'm getting there. But it's not as wide as is, but I'm getting there. But uh, what I was going to say again, when Yahuwah spoke about that, he spoke about the motive behind people doing it. That's what he cautioned Yashar'Al against. And again, people today can do it with a different motive, but nonetheless, it's a motive driven by self-centeredness, being too much into self and looks. So we have to be caution about that. Now, there was another question on the board about Can I shape the front of my hairline? And again, Akut, yeah, I believe you can without getting carried away. I groom my hair. I don't go, you know, marring, cutting into it like that, cutting it up. Uh, but I groom my head in part because of my job. I have to also. Um, they're not going to tolerate me while coming in there to work. Uh, uh, oh, and my wife too, but my job, they're not going to tolerate me walking in there. Um, you know, just letting my hair go totally wild. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Other than that, though, I don't have a problem with my hair growing as it sees fit. It's like my wife, she plants and flowers, and she like to go cutting on them. The moment something looks a little not green enough, she want to cut it off, and I tell her, why don't you leave the thing, let it do what it do, let it do what it do. Yahuwah created to take care of itself. If you wasn't around, it would be totally fine and even more beautiful than you messing with it. You know. So, bottom line.
Yahuwah prunes us, don't he?
Yeah, he pruned us, but he put the trees out there. He didn't tell you go out there cutting on them, disturbing them. They look just as good. So sometimes we get, we get cutty. A cutty. Like to cut too much.
I like to prune.
Okay.
To produce growth.
Ah,
I'm gonna prune you.
okay. Okay. What about an uneven hairline? Again, I believe I don't think there's anything wrong with grooming. Again, when we look at the scriptures, what Yahuwah is addressing is the motive, and there is a practice. I believe that practice continues in a lot of cultures in Africa today. Mic open. That practice continues in a lot of cultures in Africa today still, where people cut themselves for the dead and mark their heads for the dead and stuff like that. And that's what Yahuwah was cautioning Yashar'Al against, you see. And that's a practice that really does continue even to this very day. And that's what Yahuwah was cautioning Yashar'Al against. But again, too, we can become so hung up in our our can I say beauty or appearance, that it becomes self-idolatry. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with grooming. And I don't think that's what Yahuwah was addressing. He was dealing with deliberately the pagan customs, cautioning Yashar'Al not to get entwined in them. Okay, how about dyeing the hair? I don't see anything in the scriptures that says you can't, Aki. However, what I will caution is that dyes are chemicals, and they're not normal, they're not natural. And when we put chemicals in our heads, there are side effects, I believe, and so we need to think about that. All right. Okay. 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 So is that natural dyes? Okay. I don't see anything wrong with using a natural dye, Aki. Again, motives are motive and intents are very important in all that we do. Aki Keith, go ahead, Aki.
Shabbat shalom, Aki. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom to you, my Aki.
Okay, this one here is off the subject of what you were discussing, but I just want to say something about going back in history of Christianity and something they told us. And of course, we all heard it that we was cursed because of Ham.
Yeah.
For what Ham had done, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But when we go to Genesis 9:1, we see that Yahuwah blessed Noah and his son.
That's right.
So there was no way that Ham had been cursed.
Yes.
So
Indeed.
it fell on Canaan.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is, even I know being a Christian really didn't study. So if you were to study, you would have found out a long time ago what they was teaching us was a lie.
Indeed, indeed. But that's what they do to us in the church. They discourage us from searching. They discourage us from studying, and we have been subtly conditioned to accept and to receive whatever the pastor says. And without Yahuwah, we have no zeal to search. So the zeal that we have now to study is as a direct result of Yahuwah working in his people. As Yahuwah, as he says in the book of Malachi, as he said that he would turn his heart back to his children and turn the heart of his children back to him. Now, Christianity presents that in a different way, in a false way, because Christianity says that what that text is saying is that in the last days that that Yahuwah is going to turn the hearts of earthly fathers back to their children and the heart of the children back to their fathers. But that's not what the text is saying. The text is saying that Yahuwah is going to turn his heart back to his children and turn the heart of his children back to himself. And it's because of that happening in us and to us that we have this zeal now to go and to study. And as we study, we are seeing that all these things that we have been told and have come to believe them to be true, that they're nothing but self-deception, but nothing but deception and lies that have been fed to us. So the only reason why they have gotten over on us for so long with it, Aki, is because we have been in that deep sleep spoken of in the book of Yashar'Al, Isaiah chapter 29.
And that deep sleep is deep.
Deep.
Very strong.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
All right. Tada, Aki, tada.
Praise Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah, Aki. Great point. Tattoos. Well, Yahuwah let us know clearly that we ought not to do that. That's something that he let us know clearly. In the book of Uyakara, chapter 19, I believe, he tells us not to put any markings in our flesh. That's tattoos. So Yahuwah let us know. And I see even people who are professing Yahuwah, and after claiming that they have come to a knowledge of Yahuwah, I see people still going out getting themselves tattooed, using Yahuwah's name and whatever. But yes, it's vanity, it's vain. Yahuwah tell us not to do it. It's there in the book of Uyakara, I believe chapter 19, if I remember correctly. But he tell us not to put any markings in the flesh. Was there more? Oh, okay. Now, so tattoos. Okay, I didn't see the whole question, but if you, okay, Aki, I have plenty. Okay, I have plenty of tattoos. Was not planning to get Yahuwah name in Abari on my neck. Can I not? Okay, great. I see the rest of the questions. Okay, so yes, Aki, if you had them before coming to a knowledge of Yahuwah, that's one thing. Coming to a knowledge of Yahuwah, however, we are commanded in Torah not to do so. Okay, so even though it might be, and I see people out there doing it, but the scriptures command us not to do so. Let me see if I can find that text here real quickly. It's in Uyakara. Let me see if I can find it here real quickly. Give me just a second. Tuda Aki, chapter 19. Uyakara, chapter 19, verse 28. And do not make any cuttings in your flesh or for the dead, nor put tattoo marks on you. I am Yahuwah. Now, of course, tattoo is a matter of its translation, but basically that's what the word is saying, So that's in Uyakara, Leviticus chapter 19 and verse 28. So we are commanded not to do so. It's one thing we had them before coming to a knowledge of Yahuwah. But after coming to a knowledge of Yahuwah, coming to a knowledge of his word, we must fall in line.
Marking the skin would be like if you're in a
No, if you already have them a key, that's really one thing. And if you're able to remove them, that's wonderful. You see, again, a key. Keep this in mind that Yahuwah knows that He's waking us up out of a deep sleep. He's waking us up out of ignorance. You see, we did a lot of things out of ignorance, not knowing. You see, so He's not holding against you what you did in your ignorance. But once you have been awakened to a knowledge of the truth, what you do with that truth is what will count. You know? Yes. So know that you have a knowledge of His truth. That's what you're accountable for. How do you move? How do you live and behave going forward? But again, I see a lot of people out there using the name of Yahuwah and still going and getting tattoos. And some people, I remember a few years back, I was posting some scriptures about that, about tattoos, because I see people talking about Yahuwah and tattooing, and I was posting scriptures on Facebook about it. But they don't seem to pay that any mind, So some people just want to do what they want to do and forget what Yahuwah's word says,
So if you're in a fraternity, you can't get yourself branded. So no fraternity branding, right?
Right. No branding. Absolutely no branding. No branding.
Tell them that no fraternity.
Yeah, no fraternity branding. As a matter of fact, shouldn't be serving Yahuwah and being a part of any fraternity, because fraternity is really serious idol worship. You see, fraternity is serious idol worship. It's esteeming idols and the doctrines of false of the doctrines of idolatry. Pictures, okay. So in even though we have been told differently, and even though we yes, indeed, Aki Franklin, and even though we grew up in a society, where's your book? You remember that text you were reading when who was it, Antiochus, when he went into the Haykal to see if there was an image of Yahuwah? Can you find that for me? So we're commanded by Yahuwah not to have pictures, right? We live in a society that is difficult for people to accept that, because it's what we grew up with, right? It's what it's the only thing we have seen. It's the only thing we know, you see. And but Yahuwah's word tells us that we shouldn't. So people out there teach. There are some people out there say, "Oh no, he's only talking about graven image. That you should make no graven image." No, you should have make no image of yourself. You should make no image of Yahuwah. No image whatsoever. We should make of ourselves or of Yahuwah. That's according to the scriptures. You can look at Dabarim, Deuteronomy chapter 4 is really a great place to look at. However, we grew up in a culture and in a society where it's very different, no likenesses. I had a situation. I have an older son, lives in Maryland. I don't see him very often. His mom, they're Christians. They choose to live a different lifestyle, and for that reason, they choose to live a totally different lifestyle than I live, and they don't esteem what I esteem, and it's just different, and for that reason, there is a distance in our relationship. He don't call unless I call, and because he don't call unless I call, then I probably don't call him as often as I should because I feel that you need to make some effort also. And I'm your father, but I shouldn't have to always be the one chasing behind you. Um, and so, um, you know, our relationship isn't what it's supposed to be. Another thing too is because he's in now they have, how should I put this, put themselves out of the way, even because he plays basketball. I've been playing basketball and football for years, and their pursuit is the American dream through sports, and I'm not into that. And so they're offended that I don't drive all over the country going to his games and stuff like that. Um, he's attending Penn State, uh, something his mom is killing herself to make happen because he wanna, and he's on the basketball team there. But I don't, I don't, I don't. That's not. I don't value stuff like that. I don't. I don't. I'm not excited by stuff like that. I'm not. That's not me. So because I don't drive all over the place going to his games and things like that, it create, you know, a distance between us. He came by the house like the other day, and I've seen him at different times, and you know, he wanted to take a picture, and in the moment, they've seen just about everything I've posted on Facebook, and to the point they don't even bother to read them. But you know, for his sake, I stand and I pose for the picture for his sake, for a picture for his sake. Um, Not in the moment, you know, having the time to go through everything and whatever I pose for the picture. But the bottom line is the scriptures tells us that um, we are to have no images. So in my house, I don't put up an image. I don't put up images of myself. I don't because Yahuah tell us not to do so. You see, and so it's in the scriptures. But again, it's a difficult thing to. Uh, it's a difficult thing for us to accept because we have it's so foreign to us growing up in this captivity, because in captivity it's esteemed, but the reality is, and the fact of the matter is, it's not the way of Yashar'Al. Did you find that, babe?
Not the one where they see no image, or the one where they.
You found no image. So I wanted to read for you this book, from this book, and you can find it in the writings of Yahusha, who they call Josephus, and you can find it in other writings. And I've told you before about one of the things that caused the last scattering of Yashar'Al was when, I forget his name now, forget which one of the Romans it was, but when he went into, the Romans were into, and many other kingdoms were into emperor worship, but the Romans and the Greeks were certainly into it. And when this Roman emperor marched into Jerusalem, they brought in a banner with them, with the emperor. General marched in, bringing in a banner of the emperor, and the people were supposed to bow down and worship the image, the banner. Yashar'Al refused to do so. Most of Yashar'Al refused to do so because they're commanded not to do so. And so that's why the Romans, one of the reasons why the Romans really rose up against them the way they did, rose up against our ancestors the way they did in the last driving out of Yashar'Al, and that led to the destruction of the Haykal. In this book that my wife is reading, it talked about when, I believe it was Antiochus, when he marched into Jerusalem, and he went into the most set apart place in the Haykal, because he wanted to see what Yahuah looked like. But he was surprised, he was amazed that there was no image of Yahuah to be found in the Haykal. But today you see people having these images up. We learn it from Christianity. So they have the regular images of JC, but on the flip side of that, you have our people with these images up, these black images. You know, that image of the Creator with the red eyes and white hair and stuff like that. And people spread that stuff all around. According to the scriptures, that is an abomination. That's breaking Torah, you see. So you know that it's just not. We're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to do that. It is still idolatry. We're not supposed to do that. So as far as images, in a nutshell, and again, you can read Deuteronomy chapter 4. Read the entire chapter, Deuteronomy chapter 4. And I have a video. I have a video on YouTube on the subject. I never finished the series on that, but there's a video with a lot of information about that also, the words, and looking deeper at the words that's used and what they, you know, what they mean. Yes, yes, Aki. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. See it all the time. Cussing, using profanity, and calling on the name of Yahuah all in the same breath. You know, how can bitter and sweet water flow from the same spring? Yep, the Star of David, another sign of idolatry. Yes, indeed. Okay, it's okay, babe. It's okay. All right. Well, you know, the truth is a very tough pill to swallow when we have been so accustomed to the lies for so long. And knowing that it is incumbent upon us to exercise patience with our people, even as they grow and develop, because they Yahuah, we grow and develop at different stages, different rate, and through different processes. But we have to hold each other accountable also. But patience is absolutely necessary. Is Aki Franklin? Is he Aki from? Do you have a Haitian? Uh, oh, never knew that, Aki. Wow, wow, never knew that. Yeah. Haiti is Aki Franklin. Yeah. Never knew that. Never knew that. Wow. Praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah. Uh, yes, indeed.
So let me ask you a question.
Hmm.
Is because it said that their religion is that true, or is that just like an African practice that blacks just don't understand?
Yeah, no. Well, voodoo is it is a pagan. Well, in Haiti, it is pretty. Well, I forget his name. Keith Franklin could remind me maybe. But it is witchcraft, and one of the presidents of Haiti did declare it to be the national religion of Haiti. Um, Voodoo not as widespread uh, in Jamaica as it is in Haiti, but it's pretty uh, prevalent in Jamaica also, and throughout anywhere you find Africans, you're going to find it. Our people in right here in Louisiana, you'll find it there plenty also. Um, but where our people have become so intermingled with the other nations of Africa, they have taken on the customs of the heathen. That's what it is. Yashar'Al learning the ways of the heathen.
It was Pompeii.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Oh no, I missed it, Akut. I missed your question, Akut. Where? Let me see it, babe. Okay, let's see.
Okay. It's down here, but start up at the top right there and read that first little chapter.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me look at Akut Shar's question. So, Aki, what do you say to the set apart ones that are posting themselves, our family members on Facebook, but clearly knows better? What I say to them, including to my wife, if you know better, you got to do better, because Yahuwah hold you accountable for what you know. You see, once you know, you have no excuse. You see, it's it's better for us not to know and do than for us to know and then do or don't do. You see, so for the ones who know, you have a responsibility to you have a responsibility to act upon what have been revealed, because you will have no excuse. You see. Okay. Oh, what happened? Okay. I'm going to read from this book about imagery. This is Pompey's siege of Jerusalem. Okay. So after Pompey and his legions got into the city, the patriotic Yahudim locked themselves behind the temple walls. Pompey realized that he had a major siege on his hands, and he summoned for his battling rams engines of war from Tyre. He penetrated the temple wall, and about 10,000 Yahudim lost their lives. The legion of Rome rushed into the temple court, where no alien was supposed to enter. They killed the priest, and as they were sacrificing before the altar. When then Pompey took the audacity to penetrate into the most set apart place. He did this to ascertain whether or not there were any images of a, as they say, of a god inside. To his amazement, he didn't find any. The invasion of the Roman armies into Yehuda brought the independence of Yehuda to an end. From this time until the total destruction of the city of Jerusalem by General Titus, Rome interfered in the social, economic, religious, and political affairs of Yehuda on a grand scale. This is from the book Ju- Judah Trembles on the Rome, or that's just the title of that? Okay, what's the name of the book? Okay. So the point there is
The contrast between the two is Antiochus, when he got into the temple, when they got in there, they set up images and statues of,
Right.
of Zeus
Mhm.
and Jupiter.
Right.
They said Zeus and Jupiter, and of himself.
Mhm.
So when Maccabees got in it, when Judah Maccabees got in there, he tore it all down.
So so that was the from one of those writings, one of those books about Yashar'Al. Uh, Pompey, when he went into the most set apart place, thinking he was going to find an image of Yahuwah, but there was none. Why was there none? Because Yashar'Al knew not to make any images of Yahuwah, or even to make images of themselves. When we study the history of Yashar'Al, you don't find any images of Yashar'Al made by Yashar'Al. You find images made by other people of Yashar'Al. That's because Yashar'Al knew not to make images of themselves. And so, so the people of Matzrayim made images of Yashar'Al. The Romans and the Babylonians made images of Yashar'Al, but Yashar'Al never made any images of themselves. But again, now we're into a culture and a society where that's all we know. We were born into it, and we think that's normal, but it has never been normal for Yashar'Al. Yeah, yeah. And I've shared a little bit, but again, in their time, I believe that they'll come to a knowledge of it.
So what about if it's a video, a live video? Then everybody's going live nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a video, if I'm live, okay, instead of me posting a still picture, still image, how about if I go live and just tell you what's on my mind?
No, so it's a difference though. But again, you can be live and still be as
it's not a still image.
No, hold on. Let me explain. All right. So why are you making a video? All right.
I might be showing you how to make a cake.
Wait. No, give me a second. It's no, wait, babe. It's a difference if you are making a video with a purpose of educating somebody as opposed to getting dolled up to show off your looks, right? If you're getting on there to model, that's idolatry. That's self-worship. You see what I'm saying? So what is your motive? You see what I'm saying? What is the motive? That's really what it comes down to. What's the motive? Yashar'Al was allowed to make certain images for certain purposes. You see what I'm saying? So in the Haykal, certain images were allowed. Even though Yahuah said have no graven images, still they were allowed to have images of lions and different things, palm trees and different things in the Haykal, because it was to teach the people certain things about Yahuah. You see what I'm saying? So in the case of a video, if I'm making a video or somebody's making a video, not to self-gloat, not to self-glory, self-esteem, to esteem self, there is really a difference between that. What people do on Facebook, they're taking pictures saying, look at me, I'm the finest thing that walks the earth. You see, that's most people's motive. That's what Yahuah warns about, you see. So, it's you gotta, what is the motive? What's behind it? It's vanity, exactly. That's what it is. It's vain.
Why you say include my wife though? I don't post pictures of me.
Well, I know you have pictures. Even if you post pictures of the kids, you still know it's not right, right? And so simply because it's pictures of the kids don't make it right. You see, because
it's a lesson in me posting.
No, there ain't no lesson in it. You see, I'd rather my kids not be known to Facebook and the world. You see.
Okay, so if I do a video, a live video,
so why you
making
a
pillow, showing people how to make
that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, as long as you ain't up there trying to seduce the world either, doing it.
I'm messing with you.
So
yes. Y'all said Kim.
And she's a handful, family. She is.
And so are you, brother.
Okay.
He is a very sweet person and treats us very well. But when he's mad about something, he speaks what is that? Patois. It's deep. The patois get deep. I can't hear nothing you're saying.
Hey, there's a place for anger, and I don't hide that fact. When there is nonsense, there is nonsense, and you gotta deal with it, and you got to address it. So you can't be nice all the time, or else you're an idiot. You see. But there are times when you got to take a stand when it's necessary to take a stand, and people got to know where you stand.
Aki?
Yes, go ahead, Aki.
So Shabbat Shalom to everyone. And Shabbat Shalom to everyone that's around that probably can't hear me. But I'll just say much love, much call to everyone, and the word of Yahuah today and the lesson. Like always a baraka to me, and hopefully a baraka to everyone that hears, and an awakening and an eye opener. that Yahuah is doing this day. And I pray Yahuah continue doing that. But what I was coming to say is, when y'all was talking about earlier about the, I would say idolatry period, the part where I guess I think I caught it in later. Somehow I missed what you was talking about when you were saying something about the kids. You don't go to see them go around the country with their kids playing the sports.
Mm-hmm.
When I was in Christianity, I had a friend that used to be a beautician in my shop with me, and we became real close. So we call each other sisters and brothers, and things like that, which we are anyway. But we would call each other sisters and brothers, and we had her kids were my little nephews, so they called me uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she got into sports with them and got two of them playing sports.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go and support. Me and my, Yashar would go and support. But once I started to learn and coming to the truth, I started going down voice.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I really didn't have no knowledge of it. So I tried to say, it just don't seem right. I don't know why. But once I came across the scripture in Maccabees about the sports, as far as the athletic, and I think it's the Maccabees 4,
Mm-hmm.
chapter 4.
Yeah.
When I read that, and I was like, oh, wow, man,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of stuff, what we're doing, and we think it's okay, it's not.
Yeah, it's the way of the heathen.
According to scripture, and as I was reading that, I was like, oh, wow. I was just saying, you got to give me strength on this because I kind of like sports. But anyway, I think more of I started to do it as a recreation, just an exercise thing.
Yeah.
But becoming a fan, when I was a fan of it, and I noticed that the guy, he was, I didn't look up his name, but I think it's Unas or something like that, or Onus, how they pronounced it.
Uh-huh.
And then Jason was of Yashar'Al as well, and his brother.
Yeah.
He was the one to introduce Yashar'Al and kind of, and you see that today with the coon, what you call coon, the chiefs, and all that. That kind of reminded me of him, how there was a lot of our people coming up and are standing for the oppressor and are drawing our people to believe in that, all that mess.
Yes.
So that's the story of that.
Yes.
But that's where I look at it, and I was dealing with that too. And I was dealing with it, and I would kind of explain to my wife about it, and I would kind of come a different way. And, she was like, well, I don't see it's okay. And, blah, blah, blah. And I told her, I said, if I have a kid today, and I was raising up, I wouldn't introduce that to him to play sports or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, why? That's that. I said, well, according to the scripture, I don't believe we should be doing it that way, because it's an American dream, and that's what they're putting in it. And they also, I said, those guys are really slaves and don't even know it.
That's right.
Even though they're getting paid for it right now, they still are being slaves. And I made an example with LeBron James last year when he was in the tournament in the NBA finals, and he fell and hit his head on the camera, and I guess they got in the rule where you're supposed to have what you call concussion protocol, and they didn't even check him for concussion. They just shut him down on the side. They didn't even sew his head up because he had split his head, and they just put glue on his head and put him back out there on the court.
Wow.
So that's what made me think. I said, now everybody, are y'all paying attention to the sports today? Are y'all really seeing it? It's really entertainment, and it's really about money, about power. And I said, did you see any more? Or did you see a lot of our owners that are black? No, you really don't. You see them, but they may be co-owners. They ain't actually owners.
Right.
You're making millions, but they're making billions.
Yep.
So you you got to look at still how they're doing that, but because of the entertainment, we've been blinded.
Yes.
It's like, oh man, I said, yeah, you see, once they put our people in there, it's actually making the sport better.
Yes.
You see our athletes and how they can fly and much better than any other, people or whatever. But they doing that because they have been doing that. They had done that when we came over. We was their entertainment.
Yes.
It's just now all of a sudden they try to give us a little money for it, But it just, the thing is I look at that and I said, wow, this is really getting really tight. Where Yahuah is when Yahusha said, narrow, be straight, and narrow is the way. That's what he means, because the world is full of wickedness, full of tricks, deceit, and all this stuff. So there was another thing I was going to mention, but I think I lost the thought. But I catch it, but now I bring it back up sometime.
Yes.
But that's where I wanted to come in on that, and then I want to say another thing. When you said last week, when you was last couple weeks about the plagues and about the things that's going on, how Yahuah is showing us to trust in Him more and not to be afraid of man, and not to be afraid of the events that's happening, because we should not be concerned of it in the sense of, like you said, because Yahuah is with us, but He yet wants us to watch and pray, but yet not to be concerned of it and to be afraid of it.
Yes.
They are, and I know you heard this, but everybody is starting to get a little. They've been getting uproar about Trump getting in, and they don't realize they don't really understand why I'm saying what I say about it. They go, "What are you talking about? If he get in there, da, 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 da." I said, "Well, listen." I said, "You got to remember, it's a system." And I said, the things he's saying is a promotion, and it's almost a joke where he's going to get in there, but all the things that he's doing, he's really not going to do. You ready? Okay. And I said he's really not going to do. So, I mean, it's because it's a system. They're going to allow him to do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But he's just the mouthpiece for what they already want to say and want to do.
Yes.
And he's kind of exposing some things, too, if people really watch.
Yes.
Really listen.
Yeah.
He's exposing a lot of stuff. So, so when I looked at that, they kind of, man, I don't know what you talking about, man. I'd rather vote for Hillary and blah, blah, blah. I said, you know what? I'm not voting. What for? That's for what? So I wanted to ask you about that, but yeah, I don't want what you think about it. It's Yashar'Al. Do we supposed to vote, or is it? I don't know, because I just kind of in that sense feel that it kind of I'm leaning not towards doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't voted in a couple of years, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean the last 2 times. So I just feel that it's just like they all wicked, and I don't see the change in it. And when I found out Yahuah is the one that's going to rescue us, I got to see that Yahuah is using them. So we supposed to still vote. So I that right there, I need a little guidance. So I need some clarity on that in a sense. But anyway, I'm gonna make it short, and then because I know you probably want to close out stuff. But that's the things that I wanted to say on the everything that you have been saying and talking about, as far as the adultery, as far as the all these different things, and the Korean war, because they said they're gonna. I mean, Koreans talking about they want to declare war on us. They everybody's freaking out about that. But see, I'm just standing in the midst of it, where Yahuah ask for Yahuah for shalom in it. So, but Shabbat shalom, and I'm gonna release the mic, and if you don't mind, you can kind of clarify that a little bit for the vote part. Yashar'Al should vote.
Yes, certainly.
Shalom.
Yes, praise Yahuah, Aki. All right. So, when it comes to voting, again, I don't. I know that I see people who declare that you should never vote. But I don't believe it's wise for us as a people to cut ourselves off in that way, to say never, that you should never vote. I don't believe it is wise for us to do so, because there might be a time where uh, depending on the options laid before you, it might be necessary for us to uh, exercise exercise that ability to do so, for the sake of the benefit of us as a people. Okay. However, in this election, I don't um, I don't think it's necessary for us to get involved and to vote. I believe, and I want you to hear me clearly, family. I believe that Yashar'Al, you see, as a Yashar'Al is a nation. Nations are strategic. Okay, when you're a nation, you got to think strategically. You got to act strategically. You don't just stick your head in the sand and things, and then sing "Que sera sera," what will be. No, you got to act also. You see, so there might be a time. It could be a time in this nation. It could be a time in this nation. I'll say this again. It could be a time in this nation where we as a people have got to stand up and be proactive in defending ourselves. It could be a time in this nation, right here in this nation, and for our people around the world for that matter, where we have to stand up. But what the thing that concerns me and bothers me about our people is that we have become so Christianized that we have been led to believe that there is no reason ever that you should do that. That you just lay down and that Yahuah is going to take care of everything. Well, we just read from the book of Maccabees last week, right? In the book of Maccabees, what we saw was we had two sets of people of Yashar'Al. Both loved Yahuah. One set said, well, you know what? We'll fight if they attack us on any other day except Shabbat. And guess what? That was telling the enemy when to attack them. Because the enemy knew that they made this declaration that we will fight you on any other day except for Shabbat. So what did the enemy do? Enemy planned to attack them on Shabbat. And when the enemy come, guess what? They laid down. They didn't attack. It's Shabbat. I'm not picking up my sword at all. You're not going to make me pick up my sword. You know? And so what happened? 1,000 of them, men, women, and children, were destroyed. Now you have Maccabees, Yahuah Maccabees and his sons. What happened when the Romans attacked them on Shabbat? You know what they did? They saw what they did to those people who said, we're not going to stand up on Shabbat and fight for no reason. They saw what became of them, and they said, well, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to pray to Yahuah, and we're going to ask him for favor. And they're going to come and they're going to attack us on Shabbat, but we're going to be ready for them. And guess what? The Romans came thinking that they're going to do the same thing that the other ones did. But they were prepared. And guess what? This little group of men defeated a big army of Romans, you see, because they used wisdom. They were strategic. They weren't foolish. So on the issue of voting, there might be a time when it is necessary for us to be involved in the process, you see, because it could be that the options of not being involved outweighs the options of being involved. And it might be necessary. I don't necessarily see where we have to be involved. You know, to be frank with you, I don't mind if Donald Trump win. I know he got big plans, but I know the work that Yahuah is doing right now. And if Donald Trump wins with his wicked heart, I think it will only speed up the awakening of our people. So I don't mind if he wins. Our people need a rude awakening. You see, I don't mind if he wins because our people need a rude awakening. Because too many of us are dumbed down. Too many of us continue to walk with our heads in the sand, and we need somebody that's going to really slap us and wake us up and where we come to our senses. And I believe Donald Trump will do just that. Oh, so, I don't necessarily mind him winning because our people need to wake up. And I believe that he is wicked enough to bring about the awakening that's needed for our people. So to answer the question concerning this election, Aki, I watch these what do you call them, conventions over these past 2 weeks. I watched the Republican convention and I watched the Democratic convention. Okay. Now there is no doubt, and I'm not being partial and I'm not being biased, okay, because I don't support either party. Okay, I'm very open-minded. But when I watch the Republican convention, I see a bunch of people that are really, they have a twisted outlook. They have a hateful, twisted outlook. When I watch the Democratic convention, I see a bunch of hypocrites and I see a bunch of people that's wicked in other ways, promoting this whole homosexual thing and carrying on to like never before. And also, when I watch the Democratic convention, their words are so smooth that you can forget the history of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Well, now, let me say this to be fair to them. If you compare them to what the other people, other politicians and parties have done over the years, George Bush did make some policies that he looked out for black people more than other black politicians to a large extent have. And that's true. Got to give some credit where it's due. And Hillary Clinton, really, she has done a whole lot in trying to some extent, make things a little less burdensome on black people. A lot of things we don't think about whether it be healthcare for children or the things that she did working as a maid to get children with who could not go to school at one time because the law said that they can't go to school because they're considered disabled. That's black kids, white kids. She go in the South and act as a housemaid and to see what was going on, bring back those things, and they fought to make certain changes. Yeah, that's well and good, and other things that they have done. But at the same time, too, they have put in place policies that have totally crushed our people. And I can't forget also that even when the report was coming out about the government, about the CIA deliberately putting guns in black neighborhoods, Bill Clinton, who had the opportunity to take the spotlight off of himself with the Monica Lewinsky thing, that would have been a perfect thing to know that this report is coming out, and here it is. I have this thing that I'm being impeached on with Monica Lewinsky. But even though he's facing impeachment and he could have just bring this up and taken the heat off of himself, when the report came out, he said not a word. The government report about the CIA putting guns into black communities deliberately, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton stayed totally silent and never even act as if the report came out that proved that that's what was going on. What they did was, I'm not saying Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, but they killed the one reporter that was really working to get the word out. You see, killed them. So these people, they give with one hand and then they take with the other, but watching these conventions and even the Democratic convention, their words are so smooth that you would forget that they're participants in so much that have affected our people. Their words are so smooth. And I certainly don't forget that. And again, there might be a time when it might be necessary for us to get involved. But I don't think we need to get involved right now. Furthermore, again, like I say, Donald Trump might be good for our people. because we need to have the stupid knocked out of us, you see, so that we can wake up. Let me go to Aki de la Yahu. Go ahead, Aki. Let me check your mic for you, Aki, see if you can and I believe Akut Yariya's sorry, Akut Yariya's mic flag was up at one point also. I hope I'm not wrong. No, she gave up. She gave up. I'm sorry, I must have been talking too long. All right. All right. I think Akut Yariya's flag was up first. Let me go to Akut Yariya, and then we'll come to you, Aki Dalayahu. Akut Yariya? I'm going to unmute your mic for you, Akut. Can you hear me, Akut?
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Can you hear?
Yes, I can. You're breaking a little bit, but Shabbat Shalom to you, Akut.
Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying. I did put my phone down. I just didn't want to take up too much time. I wanted to just greet everybody and give Yahuah praise. And, you know, we really appreciate the teachings that Yahuah brings forth through you. And it's much needed. You know, Babylon, it's just really hard. We have a lot to overcome,
yes.
You know, and being at bay in wickedness of society, because all we were brought into,
yes.
You know, we have so perfume, smelling so good, not at all packaged. We have a hard time getting it out of our system, you know, just the way we don't know anything about our culture outside of what the Torah is teaching. That's why we have to cling to it.
Yes.
You know, right? Clothes, but we don't really probably, you know, there's a lot of other kind of clothes out there.
Yes.
But just want to encourage us all for mercy, for the plan of Yahuah. We know that we would not even be here today. So I just want to give him praise and to encourage everybody to, you know, keep on, you know, keeping on and overcoming those things we can, and cry out when we are struggling with certain things that the Father can help us.
Indeed.
And because the world ain't gonna get no better.
Yes.
It's on the edge.
Yes.
And our eyes. I just wanted to thank him and thank you and all of my Akim Haykal for being out there, and everybody's struggling, but we're gonna get there together according to the will of God. Aman. That's it.
Aman. Tuda Akut, and Tuda for those words of encouragement, because they're truly important for us to hear and know and reflect on. And that is so true. And Akut Yariya said something that is so important, that when we're looking for the way we should be, we're looking for our customs and our cultures, the only place we can look for it is in Yahuwah's word. The only place we can look to is Torah, because everything else out here is so convoluted and polluted and you know, so messed up. That's the only place that we can look to get a true sense of who we are and what's expected of us. To the again, Akut. Let me go to Aki Dalayahu. Aki, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll unmute your mic for you, Aki. So here we go. Mic is open, Aki.
Thank you, Aki. Kind of forgot what I was gonna say. Aki, I have a question. For like family members and friends that are still in the Christian church. When it's all over with, like, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to get saved by faith, and not judged by the ignorance of knowing? Because like my brother, he was murdered like a couple of months ago, and he had really clinged on to Christianity and got to know Christianity, God, and and Jesus or whatever. And he died getting that close a revelation to that. So is he able to experience the resurrection as Yashar'Al in the coming, because he was ignorant of the true names? Or I mean, like, is his faith still received by the Most High, even though he was indoctrinated with Christianity? And for those who are in Christianity now, like if they're not awakened, are their souls going to be damned or whatever? That's basically my quick. Also, am I able to still fellowship with my Christian friends that I made, that I had in the church, that are really good people, that are just misled from Christianity? Are we able to still fellowship, or am I still able to go to the church occasionally, and when they say Jesus, I just say Yahusha? Or how does that work?
Okay. You have some great questions, Aki. You have some great questions, and the answers, they're not going to be easy and they're not going to be smooth. But before I get into it, I want to extend to you my deepest and my most sincere condolences concerning your brother. It's sad for me to hear that, Aki. My heart grieves every time I hear that about our people. And I can relate, because my wife and we have a son that was murdered. I guess it's what is it, a little over a year now? I don't know. You lose track of time, I think, sometimes with these things. But I want you to know that I want to extend my most sincere and deepest condolences to you in that regard. To your question, the answer to the question, beginning with, let me begin with death and our people dying in ignorance in this captivity. The answer to the question, it's not an easy one, and let me just say very quickly to Akut, Carmen. Akut, I see your question, Akut, on YouTube. I haven't forgotten about it. I'll respond to it after this, Akut. But the answer to your question is not an easy one, Akia. Let me go. I want to go to the scriptures here, if I could. I have my son in my hand. He came to sit in my lap. I'll have to try to sit him down without disturbance here, because when he comes, he don't like to be rejected. So I'm going to try to put him down so I can be free to get to the scriptures. Sit here. It's okay, Pop. I'm right here. All right? It's okay. There you go. All right. You're welcome, Dakut Carmen. Yes. So no, my wife, she just had to run out. She had to run out just now. So the other kids are here that could hold him, but he don't want them. So he want me at this point. Okay, so let me put Let me put, I want to put the scriptures up here. I'm going to share my screen here with you. Oh, fuse went out. Okay, fuse went off. Yeah. Okay.
This conference is being recorded.
Okay, I'm sorry about that, family. Fuse disconnected me. I was knocked off, but I'm back. Okay. Okay, so I want to go to some scriptures. I'm going to go to the book of Yahushua. That's the book they call Hosea. Well, and then I want to bring a call to our recollection some other scriptures that for the sake of time I won't go to them, but I will just call your recollection to some scriptures and to some events. Okay. Now, book of Yahushua, let me pull it up here. I'll put it on screen. Hosea, Yahushua, chapter 4. I want to begin now. If we had time, it would serve us well to be able to read more of this. But the question is, what if Aki? Give me 1 second. Aki, I'm sorry, I gotta get your name right. Aki Delayahu had shared with us that he had just lost his brother who was murdered maybe about 2 months ago or so, and so he had some questions about that. His brother was, he had come, was into the church, he had started going to church, he was really into it and everything. And the question basically is, what happened? What happens to people who are in the church? Maybe they die in that lie that they have inherited. There are chance for them, later in the resurrection or whatever. And so that's the question basically. So I'm going to some scriptures now. There are teachings out there that says that you'll have another chance. People who die in their ignorance, that in the resurrection they're going to have another chance and they're going to be accepted. There are teachings out there that says that nobody that belongs to Yashar'Al will be destroyed, lost forever. There are a lot of different teachings out there on this. Yes, the teaching of purgatory and things like that. Now, let me say this. What the Catholics call purgatory, I forget which one of the books, they get that idea from the Apocrypha, and it's not purgatory. They give it the name purgatory, but they take the idea from the Apocrypha, and we also find it in the other writings. But basically, this was before the coming, before the coming of Yahusha. So there is some validity to this thought, but it's not what the Catholics make it to be. You remember after Yahusha came, he said that he went and he preached to the souls in the grave, not Hades, not hell, okay, because there is no hell, okay. Hades and hell, that's Greek mysticism. It's not real. That's Greek mysticism. That's Greek paganism that's used by the Christians to scare people, but it's not real. It's just not according to truth. What the scriptures speak about is Sheol, and Sheol is the grave. But before the grave, the scriptures also speak about Gehenna, okay, a holding place for the dead. And that's where the Catholics developed this doctrine of purgatory. Now, when Yahusha came, we are told that he went and he preached to those in Gehenna. You see, also referred to as Abraham's bosom. Well, the grave is referred to as Abraham's bosom also, you see. But Yahusha went and preached to those in Gehenna, you see, and they had an opportunity to be restored to Yahuah because the final Redeemer has arrived. You see, Yahusha, Yahuah manifested in flesh, is the final Redeemer of Yashar'Al. And so when he arrived, and the reason why he did that was because those who had passed on before his coming, he had been promised from the beginning. And those who passed on before his coming was looking forward to his coming, but never saw it because they died prior to his coming. You see, so they look forward to his coming, to his redemption, the ultimate Redeemer, but they never saw it because they died prior to. That's what the book of Abarim, Hebrews chapter 11, is all about. Okay, they call it in church, they call it the Hall of Faith. They call it in church, right? But that's what the book is all about. And so they went, yes, and in the book of Maccabees, Tudah for posting them a key. So they went and so he went and he proclaimed the Bashura to them, to those who waited, who looked forward to his coming. But once he came, now what we do is we look back at what he has accomplished, what he has done on our behalf. They were looking forward to what he would do, but they weren't around, and so he went and he preached to them, you see. Now, let me just read this. The reasons become obvious as we examine the contradictions to the received scriptures. We read in it's a little for some reason jumbled, of suicide being commended in 2nd Maccabees 14:41-42, and the writer apologizes for defects. It is the only book where prayers for the dead are found that contradicts the received scripture. 2nd Maccabees 12:44, the expiatory sacrifice, which eventually, as a matter of fact, Maccabees isn't the only book where prayers for the dead are found. I believe it's in the book of Esdras we see where prayers is made for the dead also. Giving with expiatory value and having the ability to deliver someone from death. To be 12:9, 4:10, the worship of messengers, to be invocation and intercession of the saints, the redemption of souls after death. 2nd Maccabees 12:42. Okay, so when we read in Apocrypha, yep, and in Esdras, that's right, what we find is that there was a place for the salvation of the dead, the redemption of the dead, okay? But that was because Mashiach had not yet come. That's why when Yahusha came, he went and he preached to them in that holding place. And for those who received him, then they had the gift of redemption. Okay. Now, after that point, we're no longer looking forward to his coming. Everybody that comes into the world now simply need to look back at what he has done. Look back and believe. That's what needs to happen. And so Those who before, they did not have that opportunity. You see, they were dependent on the sacrifices for redemption that could not keep anyone. Now, the role, not that sacrifices are done away with, the role of sacrifices have changed. Okay, but before Mashiach came, the sacrifices was the thing to redeem, but they weren't working. That's why Mashiach had to come. That's why Yahuah had to come. You see, now, so now everybody born, all you have to do is to now to look back and receive the gift. You see, the gift of redemption through Yahuah HaMashiach. Now, let's go to our captivity. All right, let's talk about our captivity and our destruction. And this is where, for a lot of people, it becomes difficult. But the truth of the matter is, family, that when Yashar'Al disobey Yahuah, then a curse comes upon Yashar'Al. We all are aware, right? That when we disobey, what comes upon us are the curses, right? And the curses, what does it say about the curses? The curses, is it just for a slap on the wrist? Or is it that when the curses come, yes, it's for correction, but is it that when the curses come that many will be destroyed? Destruction, that's right. The curses are for correction and destruction. The curses are for correction and destruction. So when Yashar'Al disobey, what happens as a result of their disobedience, many are destroyed. Many are destroyed. To be destroyed means to be destroyed. No hope of coming back. Destroyed. So we are under the curses. And as a result of being under the curses, many are destroyed as a result of being under the curses. That's the curse. The curse is destruction. You see, because of disobedience, destruction. Yeah, not the burning in hell forever stuff. That's what Christianity included to put fear into the heart of people. You see, so the curses are destruction. Okay, let's look at the scriptures. Before we go to Yahushua chapter 4 here, let's consider Matzrayim. Let's consider the captivity of Yashar'Al while they were in Matzrayim. They were in Matzrayim for 430 years. And for 400 of those years, the people did not know Yahuah. Is that right? The people did not know Yahuah for 400 of those years. That's right? That's right. For 400 years, they did not know Yahuah. They served other mighty ones. Does the scripture tell us that they were saved afterwards, or does it say that they were destroyed? They were destroyed, right? Okay, that's the people in Matzrayim. They perished. Okay, that's them. Now, how about the people who came out of Matzrayim? Now, the promise was for them to make it into the promised land, right? But then they got out in the wilderness and they began to act up. They began to, the promised land, that's where we're looking to go. That's our promise also. The promised land is our promise also, right, family? It's not Shamayim. Nobody is going to spend eternity in Shamayim, in heaven, as the Christians say. Nobody's going to spend eternity in Shamayim. Our promise, the promise that we look forward to, is the promised land, not heaven, not to spend eternity in Shamayim. Okay? What we look forward to is to be regathered to the land. What does Yahuah say time and time again in the word? That his people will inherit the earth. That's always been the promise to Yashar'Al. That's always been the promise to Yashar'Al. Now, when they left Matzrayim, you had millions of them that left Matzrayim. Of the millions that left Matzrayim, how many people made it into the land? 2. Of the millions that left Matzrayim, only 2 made it into the land. What happened to the rest of them? They perished. They perished. They were destroyed. In one night, because of their disobedience, over 200,000 of them were destroyed by the messenger of Yahuah in one night. In one night, over 200,000 people slaughtered in one night because of their disobedience. They were destroyed in the wilderness. In another instance, thousands of them were smitten. That's where Yahuah told Masha to put up the serpent for them to look upon. They never made it in. Masha also died, but Masha never made it into the promised land, but I don't believe that he was excluded from the kingdom. But he was not allowed to walk into the promised land. You see. Now, so in the flood, how many people of the millions of people that existed on the earth, or hundreds of thousands of people, how many people were not destroyed? Only 8. Only 8. Everybody else were destroyed. There's a reason why I'm pointing out these instances and these circumstances. Because Christianity like to tell us about a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance. Yeah, Yahuah gave us a whole lot of chances. But after death, it's appointed unto man to die once, and after death comes judgment. It's appointed unto man to die once, and after death comes judgment. So you have many chances before you die. But when death comes, when destruction comes, the only thing left to follow is not another chance. It's simply judgment. Okay? All right. So here's the thing. And we're going to go to a couple of scriptures here to make the point. This is hard for us to swallow and to receive. But the fact of the matter is, family, that the scriptures tells us that 2/3 of Yashar'Al, 2 out of every 3 people, you hear this now, watch, let me write it. 2 out of, why is my thing acting up? Give me 1 second. 2 out of every 3 person of Yashar'Al will be destroyed. 2 out of every 3 person of Yashar'Al will be destroyed. In your family, in your house, how many of you call on Yahuah in your household? Do your whole house call on Yahuah? I'll tell you that in most cases, there's only one. In most cases, there's only one. In some cases, there may be 2. In some cases, there may be 3. But in most cases, there's only one. 2 out of every 3 will be destroyed. 2 out of every 3 will be destroyed. Okay. So the reality is, okay, let's go to the scriptures here. Let's go over to Yahusha chapter 4. Hear the word of Yahuah, you children of Yashar'Al. For Yahuah has a case against the inhabitants of the land. For there is no truth or kindness or knowledge of Elohim in the land. No, he's not talking about America. He's talking about us, our ancestors, while they were in the land. Now we're living what is going to come because of this case that Yahuah had against them in the land. That's why we're living what we're living right now. That's why our people are being destroyed the way we're being destroyed. That's why our people have been destroyed the way they have been destroyed. So remember now, in Mitzrayim, you have 400 years worth of people simply destroyed. Just like in this captivity, we have hundreds of years worth of people that were in bondage who called upon Jesus. And guess what happened? They were simply destroyed. Okay? So, but we're going to go to the scriptures to see how this is. How could it be that this is so? Hear the word of Yahuah, you children of Yashar'Al, for Yahuah has a case against the inhabitants of the land. For there is no truth or kindness or knowledge of Elohim in the land. Woo! You hear that? He has a case against them because there is no truth or kindness or knowledge of Elohim in the land. You see, it's a dangerous thing when we lose knowledge of Yahuah. When we lose knowledge of Yahuah, the next thing that comes is destruction. Okay? Swearing and lying and murdering and stealing and committing adultery have increased, and bloodshed follows bloodshed. Therefore, the land mourns, and everyone living there languishes with the beast of the field and the birds of the heaven, and the fish of the sea are taken away. This is talking about the land of Yashar'Al now. But this is the plague that will continue, that would follow us out of the land, drive us out and pursue us. What does Yahuah say? That when you're disobedient, the plagues will pursue you and overtake you. So the plague would start on the people while they're in the land, then they're driven out of the land. But guess what happens now? You get the picture? Now the plague is pursuing them. And in the book of Dabarim, chapter 28, Yahuah said that the plague would pursue you, it would overtake you until you are destroyed. You see? So now the plague, these plagues that started in the land, after the people are driven out, is going to pursue them. We have this plague chasing after us. It's pursuing us. The curses. You see? Therefore the land mourns, and everyone living there languishes, with the beast of the field and the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea are taken away. However, let no one strive or reprove another, for your people are like those striving with a priest. And you shall stumble in the day, and the prophet shall also stumble with you in the night. And I shall make your mother perish. The land will perish. My people have perished for lack of knowledge. My people have been destroyed for lack of knowledge. What have happened to them? They have been destroyed. They have perished for lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being priest for me. Since you have forgotten the Torah of your Elohim, I also forget your children. I forget your children. As they were increased, so they transgressed against me. My esteem they have changed with shame. They eat the transgression of my people, and lift up their desire to their crookedness. And it shall be like people like priests, and I shall punish them for their ways, and reward them for their deeds. And they shall eat. What does he mean here? He says, I shall punish them for their ways and reward them for their deeds. The scripture tells us that the payment, the reward for transgression, what is it? The reward for transgression, death, destruction. The reward for transgression is destruction. The wages of transgression, the wages of sin is death. right? The payment for disobedience is death, destruction. Okay? But there is hope. Not for those who have been already destroyed, but there is hope for the living. You see? There's hope for the living. If you're destroyed, you're destroyed. But there's hope for the living. And it shall be like people like priests, and I shall punish them for their ways and reward them for their deeds. And they shall eat but not be satisfied. They shall whore but not be increased, not increase, for they have stopped obeying Yahuah. Whoring and wine and new wine enslave the heart. My people ask for their wood, and their staff declares to them. For a spirit of whoring has led them astray, and they went whoring from under their Elohim. Their slaughter on the mountaintops and burn incense on the hills, under oak and poplars and terebinth, because its shade is good. Therefore your daughters commit whoring, and your brides commit adultery. I would not punish your daughters when they commit whoring, nor your brides when they commit adultery, for the men themselves go aside with whores, and offer with cult prostitutes, a people that do not understand or thrust down. Though you are a whore, Yashar'Al, let not Yahudah become guilty. Do not come up to Gilgal, nor go up to Awan, Ayun, nor swear an oath, saying, as Yahuah lives. For Yashar'Al is stubborn like a stubborn calf. Would Yahuah now feed them like a lamb in a broad place? Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Their drink is sour. They have whored continually. Her rulers wildly love shame. A wind has bound her up in its wings, and they are ashamed because of their slaughterings. Now we can continue to read, but for the sake of time, I'm going to stop there. But I read this text to number one, point out what brought us to where we are. We are a people who the curses are pursuing us, and it says that it would pursue us until we are destroyed. But Yahuah is going to preserve a remnant out of the remnant for himself. So a remnant of the remnant shall be saved. Okay, let's jump over to Romans real quick. I'm sorry that my response takes so long, but I like to make sure that I use the scriptures to respond. Many scriptures we can look at, but let's jump over to the book of Romans. The Romans is really not a scriptures. It's a letter to the people of Yashar'Al about the scriptures, but it's not the scriptures in themselves. It's a letter to the people of Yashar'Al living in Rome about the scriptures, which is basically telling them who they are, because they have been living under bondage. They have been living under destruction. But for the sake of reaching the remnant within the remnant, the letter was written. Okay. I say then, matter of fact, let me back up a little bit to chapter 10.
Elijah?
All right. I'm going to begin at verse 16 in chapter 10 of Romans. However, let me begin a little bit up. I'm going to begin at verse 10. Now, this is, the Christians have taken this and they have totally twisted it, right? What the way they say about this ain't true, ain't right. They don't present it right. What is belief? Belief is to act upon the word of Yahuah. That's what belief is. The word of Yahuah is the Torah of Yahuah, the instruction of Yahuah, the law of Yahuah. Okay, that's belief according to scripture. Belief is not just sticking your head in the sky and having wishful thinking. Belief involves work, right? For with the heart one believes unto set apartness, and one confesses with the mouth, and so is saved, so is delivered. Because the scripture says, whosoever puts his trust in him shall not be put to shame. Because there is no distinction between Yahudi and Greek. What he's talking about is the house of Yehuda and the scattered people now referred to as Greeks. Okay, Yashar'Al, the Gentiles. That's who he's talking to. That's who Greeks are here. For the same sovereign of all is rich to all those calling upon him. For everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be delivered. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him whom they have not heard? Whoa, you hear that? Let me read that again. Let me read that again. Because there is, for everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be saved, shall be delivered. Did he say everyone who call on the name of Jesus or on the name of Buddha or on the name of Allah? Did he say any of that, family? Or did he say everyone who call on the name of Yahuah? Okay. Now, some people say, well, that's all they knew was Jesus. But, you know, all they knew was Jesus, but they really meant the Creator. No, wait. We're going to get the answer to that, the response to that in the next verse. Okay? Because there is a reason why, if we don't know, there is a reason why we don't know. Yahuah drive us into ignorance, right? And because of ignorance, what happens to us? For a lack of knowledge or because of ignorance, we are destroyed, we perish. And Yahuah brings that ignorance upon us. Yahuah brings that deep sleep upon us. Yahuah disjoints us and disconnects us, the valley of dry bones, right? What happened to the valley of dry bones? How do they look? They have no life. They look totally dead. They look like they have perished. There is no sinew on them, no life in them. They have been destroyed. Right? But a remnant will be awakened. A remnant will be awakened. Okay? Yes. Barashit chapter 45 and verse 7. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth and to give life to you by a great escape. All right. Now let's yes indeed. Now, so for everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be saved. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? Number one, remember now, you got to call on him in order to be saved. Okay. If you go to Proverbs, the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, what does it say? Or chapter 17 says that the name of Yahuah is a strong tower. The set apart run into it and they are saved, right? So you got to know his name in order to be saved. You got to call on his name in order to be saved. That's what the scripture says. Now the Christians, they try to say something totally different. Oh, his name is not important. But here's the hypocrisy with that. The Christian will tell you that his name is not important. Is all that matters is if the intent of your heart is good and right. That's what the Christian will tell you. When you talk to them about the name, they'll say his name is not important. But the same Christian now will also tell you that Buddha can't save you, Allah can't save you, Krishna can't save you, even though that's still Jesus Christ. Okay? This one can't save you, that one can't save you, only Jesus can save you, they'll say. They'll say that there is no name under heaven given whereby you must be saved but the name of Jesus, they'll say. No name. So if you call on anything else, you're not going to be saved. The Christian will tell you that outright. Wait. Isn't that what they say? Let me make sure I'm not making this up. Let me get some feedback. Is that what the Christians say? Say that to be saved, you must call on the name of Jesus. And the gospel, this is the gospel now. This is the gospel. What's the gospel? And what is needed for the end to come, according to the Christian? According to the Christian, something must happen in order for the end to come. If it don't happen, the end ain't going to come. What's that? According to the Christian. I just want to highlight the hypocrisy. Okay? The Christian says that something must happen. This gospel must be preached to the ends of the earth. that the name of Jesus must be proclaimed to the end of the earth, that everybody on the earth must have the opportunity to hear the name of Jesus, and then the end will come. If everybody on the earth does not hear the name of Jesus, the end cannot come. That's what they say. So what the Christian is saying to you is that the only way you're going to be saved is by no other name but the name of Jesus. But the same Christian, when confronted with the truth about the name, will tell you, well, so what, my grandma didn't know the name Yahusha. It's what's in her heart that counts. Wait, aren't you being a little hypocritical? Because it is you, the same one, that tell me that the only name I can call on is Jesus. But now I'm showing you the true name and you can't deny it, and now all of a sudden the name doesn't matter. Well, the fact of the matter is that the scriptures does tell us that the name matters, and that there is only one name upon which you can call to be delivered. That's a fact. The thing is, the name is not Jesus. The name is Yahusha. So Shaul says, he asked this question, how are they going to be saved if they do not know the name on which to call? How can we put anyone in the kingdom who did not know the name upon which to call, or who did not call upon the name? There are some people who will hear the name and reject the name and they'll perish. And there are some people who will perish because Yahuah kept them in ignorance because of the curses. You see. Now, let's look at this some more. So, for everyone who calls on the name of Yahuah shall be saved. How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without one proclaiming? And how shall they proclaim if they are not sent? And as it has been written, how pleasant are the feet of those who bring the good news, who bring the Bashurah of Shalom, who bring the good news of Torah. However, not all obeyed the Bashurah. For Yashar'Al says, Yahuah, who has believed our report? So then, belief comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of Elohim. But I ask, did they not hear? Yea, indeed. Their voice went out to all the earth, and their words to the ends of the world. But I ask, did Yashar'Al not know? First Masha says, I shall provoke you to jealousy by those who are not a nation. I shall enrage you by an unwise nation. And Yashar'Al boldly says, I was found by those not seeking me. I was made manifest to those not asking for me. This is not talking about other nations. This is talking about Yehuda and the divorced house of Yashar'Al. And to Yashar'Al he says, all day long I have stretched out my hands to a disobedient and back-talking people. Now let's go get down to the nitty-gritty, the point of this all. I say then, as Elohim rejected his people, talking about the 10 tribes of Yashar'Al, who have become the Gentiles, the strangers, the ones put behind, no, let it not be. For I also am of Yashar'Al, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Elohim has not rejected his people whom he knew beforehand. Or do you not know what the scripture says of Eliyahu, how he pleads with Elohim against Yashar'Al, saying, Yahuah, they have killed your prophets and overthrown your altars, and I alone am left, and they seek my life. But what does the answer of Elohim say to him? I have left for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Now, did he say that he left the entire nation of Yashar'Al for himself? No. Said he left 7,000. That's a remnant. He left a remnant who have not bowed the knee to Baal. Okay? He left a remnant. All right? Now we continue. So therefore, also at this present time, a remnant, according to the choice of favor, has come to be. A remnant, family. You are a part of the remnant. If we will endure to the end, if we will endure to the end, you are a part of that remnant. Okay? So therefore, also at this present time, a remnant according to the choice of favor has come to be. And if by favor it is no longer of works, and people have a problem with this, thinking that they have saved themselves by their works. None of us can save ourselves by our works. The works that we're commanded to do is not to bring us into favor with Yahuah. It's to keep us in the house. Our works did not get us in the house, because our works are not good enough to get us in the house, because you need a radical cleansing in order to get into the king's house. And your works, by the very fact that you would touch it, makes what was once good filthy. You see. So there are people who teach that your works is going to bring you in the house. Your works do not bring you in the house. So what is the role of works? Is works done away with? No. Torah is all about works. But the point is this: your works do not bring you in the house. Your works, the works that you do, the works are the rules of the house. In order to stay in the house, then you must abide by the rules of the house. So your works are to keep you in the house, but not to get you in the house. Your works cannot win you favor with the king to bring you in the house, because just by the fact that you had anything to do with, you touched it, that makes you guilty. Yes, there is no grace. We have the favor of Yahuah. You see. The favor of Yahuah brings us in the house. And you know what? If we go back to the book of Hosea, Hosea chapter 14, we'll see that. That is the favor of Yahuah that brings us in. So we can't boast about how good we were that Yahuah then now turn his face to us. No, we're wicked. We were wicked, you see. All right. So let's continue. And if by favor, it is no longer of works, otherwise favor is no longer favor. And if it is, what Shahul is talking about here is getting in the house. He's not talking about staying in the house. That's the thing people need to understand that they don't understand. And if it is of works, it is no longer favor. Otherwise, work is no longer work. Yeah? Otherwise, work is no longer work. So it's not that work is done away with. There is a place for work. But work don't get you in the house. Work keep you in the house. Okay? As it has been written, Yahuah has given them a spirit of deep sleep. You hear that now? As it has been written, Yahuah has given them a spirit of deep sleep. Eyes not to see and ears not to hear unto this day. Okay? He's talking about the generation that he's speaking to there, but the same is true for us right now. Let their eyes be darkened, not to see. You hear that? Let their eyes be darkened, not to see. Yahuah has brought destruction upon them, and bow down their back always. I say then, have they stumbled that they should fall? Let it not be. Meaning that the entire house of Yashar'Al will not be destroyed. He already said that a remnant will be delivered. But by their fall, deliverance has come to the Gentiles to provoke them to jealousy. The Gentiles, that's the 10 tribes, the house of Yashar'Al. And if their fall is riches for the world and their failure riches for the Gentiles, talking about Yahudah, okay, how much more their completeness? We're dealing with two houses here. For I speak to you, the Gentiles, inasmuch as I am an emissary, a messenger to the Gentiles, I esteem my service. If somehow I might provoke to jealousy those who are my flesh and save some of them. So Shahul is saying that I'm reaching out to you in hopes that I might provoke my house, my tribe to jealousy, that I might provoke Yahudah to jealousy. Okay? For if their casting away is the restoration to favor of the world, and it's not the world, this is Christianity putting this in there. Okay? It wasn't about restoration of the world. The world was never Yahuah's. How are you going to restore the world to Yahuah? And the world was never Yahuah's. So for if their casting away is restoration of favor to the Gentiles, what is their acceptance but life from the dead? Okay, so in other words, even a remnant of Yehuda will come back to life. That's what Shaul is saying. Now, if the first fruit is set apart, because Yehuda is the first fruit, the lump is also. And if the root is set apart, so are the branches. And if some of the branches are broken off, and you being a wild olive tree have been grafted in among them, and came to share the root and fatness of the olive tree, do not boast against the branches. He's cooling the other house. Now, when you come back in, don't get big-headed. Don't go boasting against them, because that was your problem. That's what got you kicked out to begin with. You see? Creating ruckus in the house. You see? And if you boast, remember, you do not bear the root. Yehuda bears the root, but the root bears you. Okay? You shall say then, the branches were broken off that I might be grafted in. Good. By unbelief they were broken off, and you stand by belief. Do not be arrogant, but fear. For if Elohim did not spare the natural branches, he might not spare you either. He's still talking about the Gentile, the 10 tribes of Yashar'Al. That's why Yahusha said, I came to my own, but my own received me not. He came to the house of Yehuda, but the house of Yehuda did not receive him, because they didn't want to move over. You see? They didn't want to move over. So they didn't receive him. So where did he go? He went to the Gentiles. And they had to refuse him. The house of Yehuda had to refuse him, so that the other branch could be brought back in, could be reconciled. You see? And they also, if they do not continue in unbelief, shall be grafted in. For Elohim is able to graft them in again. Okay? So Yehuda need to become grafted back in also. Or if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature, and were grafted contrary to nature into a good olive tree, how much more shall these who are the natural branches be grafted into their own olive tree? For I do not wish you to be ignorant of the secret, brothers, lest you should be wise in your own estimation, that hardening in part has come over Yashar'Al until the completeness of the Gentiles has come in. And so all Yashar'Al shall be saved. Now, this is where people mess this up. What he's talking about is the two houses coming back together to form one house once again. And he clarifies this in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 15, talking about the two sticks coming together to make one new man. Christianity says that that's the church and the Jews. That's nonsense, foolishness. You see, the deliverer shall come out of Zion, and he shall turn away wickedness from Yahuah. And this is my contract with them when I take away their transgressions. Truly, as regards the good news, they are servants, messengers for your sake. But concerning the choice, they are beloved for the sake of the fathers. For the gifts and the calling of Elohim are not to be repented of. For as you also at one time disobeyed Elohim, but now have obtained compassion through their disobedience, so also these now who disobeyed, that through the compassion shown you, they also might obtain compassion. For Elohim has shut them up to disobedience in order to have compassion on all. Oh, the depth of riches and wisdom and knowledge of Elohim! How unsearchable his judgments and untraceable his ways. For who has known the mind of Yahuah? Who has become his counselor? Or who first gave to him? And it shall be given back to him. Because of him and through him and to him are all. You hear that? Because of him and through him and to him. That's how deliverance comes. That's what he's saying. He's saying that there's only one Yahuah. There is no two mighty ones that we serve. There is no three mighty ones that we serve. Everything comes through this one Yahuah. Because of him and through him and to him are all, to whom be esteemed forever and ever. Amen. All right. So the reason why I read these scriptures is to point out that of the breaking away and the fact that how many will be destroyed and a remnant will be delivered, but not everyone. So where it says that Yashar'Al, all Yashar'Al, is really a bad translation. It's really talking about the two houses becoming one again. Okay, so a key, I'm sorry I took the long way, but I hope that it's a difficult matter to digest, but I hope that you got some clarity from what we went over. And Maya Shah, I extend our condolences to you also, Aki. I think he may have had to leave. Well, family, I've kept you long. It's wow, it's 8:08. So I want to thank you for hanging in there. And again, let me respond very quickly to one more question. We're going to wrap it up. We'll be here tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Yahuah willing. So let me go back to the question on YouTube from Akut Carmen. Tada, Keith. Are keeping photo albums in our homes or pictures in our phone gallery considered images? Yahuah would not approve versus pics on walls or social media. Yeah, any pictures. And by the way, Akut, I have a video on YouTube titled Images and Mighty Ones. And I encourage you to watch that video. But when you watch it, be sure that you have time to look at the screen. Pause the video so you can look at the information that's there. Welcome back, Aki Yahoo. I was just letting you know my Asha wanted to extend their condolences to you also. Yes, but I encourage you to watch that video, Akut. Images and Mighty Ones, it's called. But as you watch it, pause the video when I put different things up on the screen, different words, the Abari words and their definitions. Pause the video so you can look at those words, the words that's translated in the text. But yes, those would be considered images not approved of by Yahuah also. Again, it's a difficult, when we have been accustomed to something so radically different, it's a difficult thing to swallow. But that is what his word says, you know. That's what it says. But we all have our journey. I do know that change doesn't come overnight, but we have to be working towards that. Okay, so there it is. Again, the video on YouTube is Images and Mighty Ones. Yes, indeed. I mean, I had pictures on Facebook before Yahuah brought this to my knowledge, before he brought his word to me in conviction. And Facebook wouldn't allow me to delete my pictures, but I was able to make them unseen. So that's what I did. For some reason, I couldn't figure out how to delete them. I was able to make them I guess private or whatever. I guess they want to make sure they're there, so if they have to come after me, they know who I am. Not that I'm giving them a reason to come after me, but they will. They could, and make up reasons. Mm-hmm. All right, so we'll be back tomorrow evening, family, at 7 p.m. Eastern, or in Foundational Facts Fellowship. It's a different room number, and I believe I did see a member of the family here posted that information. And Tuda Kuchar for posting to YouTube. The number is 288-09-658. That's Foundational Facts Fellowship, tomorrow evening at 7. Once again, Tuda for your patience. Family, I've kept you long. We're going to end. We're going to close out. Let me just look. Excuse me for this. Excuse me. All right. So, again, there's the information also. Oh, yeah. Not a question Aki had asked about going back to church from time to time and, hanging out with people from church. Aki, my desire have always been to be able to hang out with people from church. Reason why? Because I want to be able to have conversations with them. What happens though is that the more you grow in the truth and you try to share with them, no matter how nice you try to do it, they're going to push you away. You see, they're going to push you away. But I wouldn't say cut them loose, because you see, the Sadducees and the Pharisees said the same thing to Yahusha, said the same thing to Shaul. You see, because our people, the people of Yashar'Al, they too had become churchified. They too had become Christianized. When you read in the book of Maccabeus, that's what they picked up. They picked up Christianity. Christianity didn't just start. The church like to tell you that Christianity is 2,000 years old. Christianity is not 2,000 years old. Christianity is far older than that, you see. And Yashar'Al picked up Christianity, you see. So that's what our people have always done. They turned to Christianity, you see. And there are people in Yashar'Al who told Yahusha, have nothing to do with our people who are still in the church. And they told Shaul and they told Kappa not to have anything to do with our people still in the church. But my advice is, don't cut them off. Don't push them away. Let them do the cutting off, if anything. And you don't have to worry, because if they don't want it, they are going to cut you off. And they're going to say all kinds of stuff about you, you see. But let them cut themselves off. You don't cut them off, you see. And they'll, some will do that, you know. But also, we have to recognize just how deep the conditioning runs, you see. We have to recognize just how deep the conditioning runs, and we have to exercise patience. That's what Shaul was saying to Yashar'Al, who had awakened in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and chapter 3. He was telling them that they need to, or Philippians, they need to exercise patience with those who are not yet awake. So in as much as we can, exercise patience with them. You know, family, I have people from time to time, they're still in the church, but at least one or two of them, from time to time, they respond to stuff that I post on Facebook. Now, these are people that thought, you know, they thought was a part of a cult and stuff, but over the years, it's obvious that Yahuah is doing something, because the things, sometimes I post things and I don't expect for them to respond to it, to like it or anything like that, and to my surprise they do. You see, it's a slow work, but Yahuah is working. You see, it's a slow work, but Yahuah is working. So we have to be patient with them. They are our people. We just have to be patient with them. Recognize where Yahuah is bringing us from, not where he has brought us from, but where he's bringing us from, you see. So that's important and necessary. All right, family, I've held you long. I'm gonna prepare to close out. Yeah, indeed. All right, praise Yahuah. Father, we thank and praise you once again for this day. Thank and praise you for your word. I thank and praise you for the work that you continue to do in the life of your people. I thank and praise you, Yahuah, for the wind that is blowing and the earth that is shaking in the valley. I pray that you would continue to awaken your people, Yashar'Al. Father, I pray for opportunities for us to reach out to our brothers and sisters who are still in a deep sleep. I pray, Yahuah, that you would prepare their hearts and minds and their ears for your word. And I pray, Yahuah, that you would draw them as only you can. I pray that you would continue to work in us, to make us more and more like you, to help us to walk in your way continually and to seek after you with our whole hearts. And so, Father, I praise and thank you for every family, every household represented here today. May you continue to barak and keep us. May you continue to strengthen us in your way. May we continue to hunger and thirst after you. And as we do, may you feed us as only you can. And so, barak your people, strengthen and guide us. May we not lean on our own understanding, but in all our ways, Yahuwah, may we acknowledge you, and may you direct our path. Do this, we pray. We thank and praise you for the past week, and we say to the Yahuwah for bringing us into this day. And now that this day is gone, and we are now into a new day, may you be with us and be with us in the coming week. Watch over us and keep us. We thank you for all that you have done. Do for your people as you know best. We pray in Yahusha's name. Amen. Halal Yahuwah. Well, family, may Yahuwah barak you and keep you. May Yahuwah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. Praise Father. May Yahuwah cause his face to shine upon you and give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuwah be upon you. Hallelujah. Praise Yahuwah. Praise Father Aki. May Yahuwah be with you, take you there safely and back. Praise Father. Oh, immersion. When is immersion? Well, we're gonna plan an immersion. I know that we have a lot of family. The problem is, the difficulty is that we are so scattered, and it would be one thing if I could travel easily, but that that's never an easy thing to do financially. We're going to be planning an immersion. Don't know exactly if it'll be this year, maybe early next year after the spring or something, Yahuwah willing. But we're going to be planning an immersion. We have to find a location that works best for everybody, as scattered as we are. But may Yahuwah barak us in that. Yes, certainly. Certainly, welcome to come to Jersey. I don't know. It would be quite a trip for a lot of people. That's why I think about trying to find a central location. But it would be great. Do look forward to us coming together, not just for immersion, but for the fellowship that comes with it. The last time we were together, I certainly enjoyed it and look forward to us being able to do so once again. All right. Well, family, I'm not going to hold you any longer. I'm going to say Leila Tub to you all. Love and appreciate each and every one of you. And Yahuwah willing, do look forward to seeing those of you who is able to join us tomorrow evening. Train my 10-year-old son. Do I take him out of children's church? Yeah. Good question, Aki. I'm sorry. Great question. I got to answer. When we left the church, my wife, who was, she had a good friend there in the church. And that friend wanted to come by on Sunday mornings and take our kids to Sunday school. But Yahuwah, when my wife told me about it, Yahuwah brought to mind Shamut, Exodus chapter 5. I believe it's chapter 5, where when Masha went before Pharaoh and asked for them to go into the wilderness to slaughter and to worship, at some point, Pharaoh said, okay, this is what I'll do. I'll let the men go, but the women and the children must stay here. And what Yahuwah revealed to me in that is that what the enemy was doing was sowing seeds of dissension and rebellion. He said, leave the women and children. The men can go, but leave the women and children. So that would be like, so for me to continue to leave my children, allow them to continue to go to Sunday school, would be like me leaving out of the bondage, but leaving my children in it to continue to be polluted, you see, and brainwashed, and actually for them to sow seeds of discord into them that's going to later affect the entire house. So Yahuah said to them, no, the women and the children aren't staying. They're going to go too. Pharaoh said, leave the women and children, because he figured they're easy prey, you see. But Yahuah said, no, everybody must go. We ain't leaving nobody. So when we come out of the church, our children got to come out also. All right. Yes, indeed. Dabarim 11:19, and thou shalt teach them to your children. Speak of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. All right. Great questions, Aki. Great questions. Well, again, family, it's been a baraka spending this time with you. I'm going to say Leila to each and every one of you. Let me stop the recording on YouTube, and I'm going to end the session here. Tuda.